Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 290, and we've got some special stuff this week. Nate Hale and I are alone in the garage. Makes it sound weird. No, don't. But we have you guys out there. We're keeping us company, so we appreciate that. We have, before we get started, I do want to kind of get into a few of our sponsors here. Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. We have tonight the featured cigar is going to be a brand new one from Camacho Cigars, and it's going to be the Broadleaf, and this one's going to be a little bit unique for a Broadleaf cigar. So we're going to get into that. But before we light that up, we've got a special bottle that we just cracked, and we're looking forward to sipping on tonight. And that is going to be the Watershed barrel strength, finished in apple brandy barrels, 6-year fall finishing series. It's a mouthful.
Is there any other part of that name?
Batch number 4.
Oh, batch. Okay, there we go. Batch
there you
4.
go. Batch number 4. So we're going to be sipping on that here. And someone's commenting that, it took so long for me to find the feed because Facebook doesn't care for me. But Tinder Box at Easton has the Camacho Broadleaf available now. 3 sizes, I think, at least the Toro and the Gordo. We're smoking the Toro. It comes in a Robusto as well. I can't recall if we have that there or not. I think we do. I also want to thank Altadis USA. We have the Monte Cristo Platinum Series. We haven't smoked that in a while on the show, I don't think.
I can't remember the last time we smoked it, if we have.
There you go. Yeah. That's also available at Tinder Box at Easton.
If I remember correctly, prior to the 1935 anniversary, this was Monte Cristo's highest rated cigar.
That I don't know. We'll have to look that up here between now and part 2. But, those are available at Tinder Box as well as a lot of the Camacho line and a lot of the Monte Cristo line. And Altadis also features Romeo y Julieta, H. Upman, Aging Room, among others. So check them out. And thank you, Altadis USA, for continuing to sponsor the show. So the Monte Cristo Platinum Series will be the featured cigar of part 2. So we appreciate that. BS Cigar Company, we've got some BS swag on right now as well. I'll put that up on the screen. But BS Cigar Company, the gold is available, made by Plasencia, and the silver is made by Espinosa, also available. And if you want some BS swag or some Bourbon and BS swag, buyjack.com/bourbon and BS. So it's byjack.com/bourbon and BS. I've got a 3/4 sleeves. You got the blue hoodie along with the red shirt for the podcast. Pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. I will admit that this gray and blue combo does not exist. This was a prototype that went bad. Love this shirt, but it just didn't work the way that we were printing it. So now instead we have that black and blue, which I love that combo. So the shirt comes in different color combos. And also you guys out there, obviously, patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. For all of you guys out there that have supported us from the beginning, since the beginning, or at any time in between now and then, we appreciate that continued support, keeping this show on the air for you guys. If you guys want to do a monthly contribution, you can do it through patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. Or if you want to do a one-time contribution, specific bottle you'd like to have us try to find, help us out with that. Venmo at Bourbon and BS for that. Any comments there? No, not yet. Just let's do it. And here we go. And so if anyone has any comments or questions about the bottle that we're going to be drinking right now, we do have Ryan Venrick on, who is the barrel master.
Barrel manager?
I like master. Ryan, what's your title?
I'm the barrel master.
Yeah, I think it sounds cooler than manager. But yeah, so he's going to be on here. Ryan's on. He's with Watershed Distillery to answer any questions while he's available. He's currently in the process of selling his house. So he says cask manager. I know, but cask, I guess master distiller kind of takes that master part. So if you do cask master, I don't know.
Sounds too close.
He says master coming soon. All right. So
it sounds too close to taskmaster.
He's just, yeah.
And no one likes one of those.
Fair point. All right, we're going to get right into this here. And again, if you guys have any questions or comments, ask on the comment feed. We're on Facebook Live every Wednesday. Also, YouTube Live. We try to monitor all the comments on both. Most of it's coming through Facebook. So definitely check us out on there and join the conversation. Share it, like it, review it, all that good stuff. We appreciate all of that. So let's get into this bottle here. Again, it's a long title. So, Watershed Fall Finishing Series, 6-year apple brandy barrel finished.
Barrel strength batch 4.
Batch 4. As you took a sip of it.
Again.
So I'm going to, before we get into this, I'm going to read the official notes on this. Well, at least what the project is. But this is, first and foremost, for you guys that are interested in this bottle, this is a very limited release bottle. This batch number 4 is a limited release bottle. If Ryan's got the actual number available, let us know how many bottles are available in this lottery, which is what it is. It's a lottery. The lottery is open now through watersheddistillery.com, and it's open from the 4th, beginning of the month, and it closes at the end of day on October 26th.
Okay.
So late next week, is that right? Let's look at a calendar here.
Sounds about right. What's today?
So it is next Thursday. At the end of next Thursday, 11:59 p.m., the lottery closes, and then it will be announced if you won on Friday the 27th.
So it closes Thursday. You'll find out the next day if you won.
On the 27th, and the pickup begins, if you did win, on the 28th.
On Saturday.
Which is Saturday. So
begins.
Well, so if you win one of these, like I was fortunate to
well, because I know sometimes they've had times where it's like, hey, this is the day,
or they'll give a time frame, right? And I've always said, if you contact them and say, hey, I'm not able to make it in until next Saturday, you should be just fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things that if you just ignore it, there's a certain point where they're like, well, we're going to sell this bottle.
Yeah, they're not as stingy as the state of Ohio is when it comes to lottery bottles.
Correct. Yeah, so absolutely. So this is again, it's holding a lottery. This is their tried and true finished product. It's a 6-year apple brandy finished bourbon, and it will only be available via lottery from the distillery directly. Okay, it's an exclusive that is part of the Watershed Distillery Fall Finishing Series, a celebration of the flavors inspired by autumn and the warm and cozy feelings we look forward to in the cooler months.
We could use some warm, fuzzy feelings.
Yeah. This spirit is the marriage of a small number of hand-selected mature bourbons finished in our charred American oak apple brandy barrels. Aged 6 years and bottled at barrel strength, it's the perfect tribute to Ohio. And I'm not going to go over the notes yet because we're going to talk about this here, okay? But then they say, we hope you enjoy sipping it as much as we enjoyed creating it. This is what they call the nerdy points on the press release here, or the information. So the proof's up there. It's a little higher than batch number 3, which we do have on the table to Nate's left, stage right. Is that right? Yeah. This one's going to be coming in at 127.5 proof. Char number 5, the mash bill, 72% corn, 21% rye, and 7% malted barley.
So it does classify as a high rye bourbon.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
And that is what I'm going to tell you so far.
So the one thing I love about some of the Watershed barrel strength or single barrel picks that they do is when it comes to the proof, they're all over the place. I think the lowest I've ever had was the Founders Select, which was 110. And then the highest I've ever had was a barrel pick they did, and that was 142.
Okay.
So, yeah, 127, kind of right in the middle of that, of what they are capable of.
It's, I mean, 127, it's high. I mean, that's barrel strength, but it's, I want to say it's not like to your point, like it's not the highest they've done. But that 127, once you start pushing 130, I feel like you're getting on the higher side of most barrel strengths.
Yeah.
Or cask strength, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever they
tend
to call it. This is barrel strength from Watershed. I know they use that. What were you going to say?
I think the other bottle I brought with me, because I didn't know you were going to bust out batch 3 for this one, was one of the OHLQ picks that they did recently. One of those 8 barrels. We had the Casper on.
We have a little bit of the Casper inside still.
So
not much, but
I have a little bit of the Scrumptious Brown Sugar, which I think came in around 129.
Sounds like it goes well with the apple brandy too.
Oh, I'm
just do a mixture.
Oh, let's do some science, bitches. I'd asked Ryan, how long does this spend in the brandy barrels? Because a lot of times when distilleries will do a finishing, usually, Usually the finishing is like 4 to
Jeez.
6 months on a lot of these. This is spending 2 to 3 years in that apple brandy
yeah.
barrel. So they're probably taking a 4-year bourbon and then throwing it in those apple brandy barrels.
Yeah.
So that's probably, you want me to just hand stuff to you the rest of the night?
You know, I'm getting old. Like I was asking Nate before the show, like tennis elbow. I mean, it's on the outside of the elbow. I don't play tennis, and it's on my left hand or my arm. But
let's hope you don't have to have Tommy John.
But I don't. It's not even my throwing arm. That's the problem. Trying to do up rows in the gym, and I was like, "Oh, this is fine." And like my elbow hurt of all things. So I'm barely using it. Yeah. So like you said, 2 to 3 years, according to Ryan, that this was finished in that.
Yeah.
It's a long time for sure.
Oh yeah.
Long time. So real quick before we get into the notes, I will say, Ryan out there, look at the two labels. Bring that over here.
Mm-hmm.
They updated their labels a while back, I feel like, and now with this one, I feel like they kind of pumped it up just a little bit, but it's about the same. I think it's just probably because of the more colors on here. You have this printed on here as opposed to handwritten.
Yep.
So again, like batch number 4 is
printed with a typewriter.
Yeah, but then this is on there, the batch number 4 there.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's very similar. I just think it's been like the barrel strength to this barrel strength. It's almost like they kind of tweaked it a little bit, just subtleties.
Well, and then
very
also,
much recognizable. The neck label obviously is different as well.
Also, the word distillery and the DSP number are both stand out a little bit more than in the old one.
Well, they're embossed coming up, where this is actually
going down,
going into it. Yeah.
Yep.
Like stamped.
Mm-hmm.
These are just like those little notes that we notice. And on the back, very similar, but this one, again, they blew up the text a bit. You've got the fall finishing series all over this thing as well. So just kind of some quick notes on that. Good thing that wasn't a glass.
And on the new one, also, we'll put them side by side so we can see the difference. Also on the new one, they changed the font from gold to gray for the government warning, kind of like minimize that, not let that stand out as much.
Made their name bigger too.
And made their name bigger too.
These are the things that we look at. Are you all right?
Yeah, I just had to reach for my water.
Ryan also says 6, 7, and 8-year-old barrels in this blend.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nate, what do you think of this?
So it's been a while since I've had one of these because I've had some of the Nocino finished ones recently.
The 5-year.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I just finished off one of those and I have another bottle of those because someone got one to do a show and then didn't want to spend the money on the one they won, so I got both.
That's right.
Not going to say who that was.
I think it was me.
Yes, it was you.
It went to the community of the show, the whatever.
But the thing I like about this is coming in at 127 proof right off the get-go, it doesn't smack you in the face. Up front, it's got this very nice, pleasant, I want to say more like a honey type of flavor, not the deep, rich caramel that some have. I think it comes across a little bit lighter, like a honey, butterscotch. And then you definitely get some spice on the finish, some cinnamon that just lingers and lingers and lingers.
The cinnamon?
Just the spice. Like you can kind of feel your tongue and mouth tingling a little bit, and that lasts for a decent amount of time.
Yeah, this one, it'll, for those, I guess, that don't drink as much barrel strength, that haven't had any of the expressions that they've done before on this one, this is different to a point, and for me, I like it. But it is, when I say like the 127.5 proof, it's not that it's abrasive, but it'll shock you at first. We took one sip before going on the air, and I said to Nate, I said, I'm glad we did that before we went on the air, because it was almost like it's very, very, for me, bright, but very powerful up front. And then when you swallow it, I mean, it does have a bit of a burn to it, and it's for people that I don't really care for whiskeys because they burn or whatever. Like this one's not for them. Like this is gonna this is
leave
gonna
this one to the professionals.
Yeah. But yeah, so this one, it's got that warmth in the chest a little bit, but in the throat as well. It kind of has. I mean, I think it'll calm down a little bit, but right off the rip, this has got a shit ton of flavor.
Yeah.
It definitely does. And you do. I mean, it's not surprising to hear Ryan say that it's been, sitting in the apple brandy cask or barrels for as long as it has, because there are a lot of characteristics there coming out of this. Would you agree?
That's where I think a lot of the brightness from this comes, because their apple brandy, it's very bright, very clean, it's very sharp, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, you said that so much better than the way I just described it. Like, if you just heard me say, like, I'm not going to try that, and then Nate says the exact same thing but in better words, and it's like, oh, that sounds really, really delightful. I don't know what Steve's drinking, but I like what Nate's having.
But no, I mean, I've had bottles of their apple brandy at my house before, so I know what that flavor's like. So anytime I get something of theirs that's finished in one of those apple brandy casks, I'm almost looking for that note.
It's there.
It's there.
It's for sure there.
Just like when we have the ones finished in the Nocino. I just finished off a bottle of Nocino recently, and so when I have that project, like
just the liqueur.
No, when I have the bourbon finished in the Nocino barrel.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking for some of those same characteristics of the Nocino.
Yeah. Have you had the Nocino old fashioned? I can't remember if you had that before.
The black walnut old fashioned.
Black walnut, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a bottle of that.
Yeah, I had a bottle of that.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. You posted a picture of it on the community page last week, I think it was.
With that guy in the background.
Yep. And I was like, I haven't had that in a while. Steve's pouring it over ice. Let me just pour it in a glass.
I had someone also, sorry to get off track here, still talking about Watershed, but had one of our friends, Bob Keller, and he messaged me and he's like, "What'd you think of that? The black walnut old fashioned?" I was like, "Well, if you like old fashions and if you like black walnut bitters in them, if you've had them, it's pretty good." He's like, "I really like that, and I'm lazy." So I said, "Well, we're on the same page there. I'd definitely pick up a bottle."
Yeah,
I said, because I don't know if I don't think you have to, but I shake the bottle. I don't know why. It's like
instinct.
Instinct. It's like shaking a Gatorade. Like nothing's settled in that thing.
There's no sediment.
But I just shake it up a little bit. Just I don't know why, but I just do, and then you pour it over ice, and it was fantastic.
I also have a couple bottles of the first release of their Burchino.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
which was done with the bourbon instead of the vodka base, then aged in bourbon barrels. Yep, got a couple bottles of those. And the Nocino, like we have that in the liquor store at Carfagna's. That is the only non-standard size that we carry. So like
really?
all of our bottles are 750s. A couple of them are 700 mLs because that's what some of them have gone to, because that's the European standard. But we get people coming in all the time looking for airplane bottles, pint bottles, and the Nocino is the only 375 that we have in the store.
Rightfully so.
Because that's all it comes in.
It's really good though.
It is.
All right, back to this bottle here.
Pour that over ice cream.
Yeah. Well, remember when we first had that? This was a while back, but remember we just started it was late. That was a long night. We just started basically mixing some of the Nocino into the 4-year bourbon.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, this is great.
And that was the old recipe too.
Yeah, this is great.
Oh yeah, because
we're just adding more alcohol than alcohol. This is fantastic.
I think what we were featuring was like the first batch of the Nocino finish, and Ann Dimmick was on.
Yeah, it was way back.
And we finished that bottle, but she brought a whole box of stuff. So we're like, what else can we do? Well, what happens if we take the bourbon and just pour Nocino into it?
Make it a cocktail with booze on booze. It was good.
It was. That was a good night.
It's a long night. This one here, I do like it. Again, the brightness and the spice and everything. I can kind of see why they started their fall finishing series with this. I think there are going to be some more, Ryan. Yeah. I don't know what you've released so far as information, but from what we're hearing, there might be some more fall finishing series going forward. That's why it started with the series, but this is the way to kick it off with this limited release. It is going to be the apple brandy barrel finish, where there's, again, you have the Nocino, you have some other ones. So we'll see what comes out after this.
They've done some wine finish ones.
They did the Cabernet and the Red Zin.
No, it was Zin and Pinot Noir.
Excuse me. That's right.
I got the Pinot Noir. You got the Zin.
Still have some of that
because it was weird. I thought because I like Zinfandel wine more than Pinot Noir, so Amy at Watershed was getting me the Zin finish, and then I told her what I liked. She's like, "Oh no, here you might like the Pinot Noir one more."
Yeah,
and yeah, I did. And Steve liked the Zin better. So
yeah.
It's funny
Both
how that
very
works.
good.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out.
This is a spicy bottle, that's for sure. I'm getting it. Like there's definitely some spice,
too.
not spicy like that, but it's spice. It's got a lot of that warm
Mm-hmm.
spice. I don't know if it's like cinnamon apple. Obviously with the apple brandy, that's on my head here, but this be good to take out to do some apple picking, maybe in a flask or a Yeti. Let's go to there.
So that way you can get through the day.
No. It helps you stay warm, right? Gets you in the mood.
That's not how alcohol works at all.
Fair enough. So this one here, they say, so it's on the back of the bottle as well, but on here it says, with aromas of cinnamon, clove, and toasted almonds, this complex spirit gives way to cascading notes of honey, dried plums, and baked apples. And then their notes on the nose: sweet oak, red delicious apple, nutty with a slight toffee note. On the palate,
oh, that was the nose.
That's just the nose.
My bad.
Palate: caramel, apple, brown butter, spicy, caramelized sugar finish.
I get the spicy.
Yeah.
What was the nose again?
Sweet oak, red delicious apple, nutty with a slight toffee note.
I get the nut and toffee.
Okay.
I get that. Bobby, we're drinking whiskey. I don't know why you're talking about Beer Fest.
He did a quote from it.
Mm-hmm. Do you get a little plum on the palate?
You get it on the palate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love about some of their finishes, even their single barrels. Like the complexity in some of their stuff, is just fantastic. They've come such a long way in the short time that they've been around, and better products, more complexity to their stuff. I think going to that, changing the mash bill from that old 5 grain that they used to do with the Ohio Spelt. I think changing away from that and going to what they currently use, I think they've definitely made some improvements over the year, and probably one of the reasons why earlier this year they were, purchased by one of the big distributors.
Yeah. Well, it's clearly, it's going to be, it's unique, right? Doing their apple brandy barrels.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely a unique product. This is the only thing I'll say about this that may come across as, I don't want to say negative, but it's not for everybody.
No.
I would say that. This is a very good, I enjoy it. I know, Nate, you enjoy it. A lot of people I know that had the other batches have really enjoyed it. I have had a couple people give feedback to me about the previous batches that they're just like, it just wasn't for me. It's, you know what I mean? It's just, but everyone likes different stuff. I will say that, because there is uniqueness to a lot of their products. Like we're talking about, like this one, the apple brandy barrel finish, the Nocino barrel finish, like all of that stuff is like, they're going to be unique. So if you don't technically say you don't like the apple brandy characteristics of flavor, then probably not for you. You know what I mean? But
I remember
that's the only thing I'll say.
Last year, when we had Wes on, when he was still with Watershed, we were doing the batch 3 of the Nocino finish, and Wes brought on a bottle of batch 1 and batch 2. And then we had batch 3, and we started with 1, and we talked about it. We talked about number 2, and then we talked about number 3. And I remember what I had said was, what I got out of batch 3 was the best characteristics of 1 and 2.
That were these, right?
No, that was the Nocino
one.
What I'm saying is that's what I mean when you were talking about, like, it's not for everybody. Like some of their, because they're still growing and still experimenting with stuff, their batches are going to change from batch to batch, product to product. You know, not even I like everything in their portfolio. Not everything.
No, and you're not going to.
No. I mean, you go into a liquor agency, pick out any whiskey, any bourbon on the shelf that's $40 or higher. You're going to find some people who like it, and you're going to find people who don't. It doesn't matter what it is. There's always going to be someone who likes something and someone who doesn't like it.
It's very true. That's why there's so many different options out there.
And those people get in arguments online, in Reddit probably.
Who does that? We'll say on the second glass of this, and we're doing average pours. These aren't like major pours here, right? But on the second glass, it does calm down a little bit. Like that spice is still there. Now it's going to be, you know, what I do it there. Let's do this.
Well, when I was talking about stuff earlier, you were
probably wash this.
You were showing the
wash this.
Yeah, probably, maybe. You were showing me while I was talking the legs on your glass.
Yeah.
Well, that
no.
Sure. That kind of goes towards why you know, the finish and spice
way more than I put in
goes on, like why that lasts so long on your palate. It's got so much oil because of that proof. They're not cutting it. So you would expect that flavor to just sit there on your tongue.
Yeah. So we just I only added 2 drops of water in mine.
Oh, I wasn't counting yours.
Yeah, yours it was definitely more, but I just wanted to see how that affects some of that cinnamon.
Okay, well, it's funny. We've had some where adding water actually increased that spice.
I know.
It's funny how that works sometimes. But yeah, who doesn't love cascading flavors? Yeah. You do a head tilt.
It's because I was like swallowing and I took a breath and it was still kind of that like cinnamon's there. It's still there with the 2 little drops of water. It's definitely, it's definitely there. It's interesting because it is like the cinnamon's there, and they mentioned I think clove somewhere on
in
one
the
of these,
nose.
on the nose.
Cinnamon, clove, and toasted almonds.
Which I don't really know what toasted almonds.
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Although, like as it sits on the palate, that's where I taste some of the clove that they talk about in the nose. It's like, 30 seconds after a sip.
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone tastes stuff different. I mean, go into any wine shop that's sitting there tasting wine, everyone's going to taste something different.
I like that and I can't recall, and maybe if Ryan's out there, I know Ann Dimmick, who used to work with Watershed. I don't know when the first 3 batches of this came out, what time of the year, but I think this is a perfect one for fall. And I'm not just blowing smoke here. You know what I mean? It really is. This would be a lot on like an 85, 90 degree day. I would not be like if we were hanging out like on the patio or whatever, and I brought this out, it'd kind of be like, what? No, hang on a second. What else do you have? It's not that I don't like it. It's just like no, that is not a drink. If
it was the middle
today.
of summer and you brought out this bottle, I would just sit there and go, oh, Steve wants to get fucked up tonight. All right.
What else do you got? She says it's always September, so that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, this is a month later, but I mean, it's fall. I mean, this is great to start the whole this fall finishing series because it is a perfect getting cooler.
Well, also some of those flavor notes that they talk about, like the cinnamon, clove, toasted nuts of anything, like those are some of the, that's what you think about when you think about Thanksgiving and pumpkin pie and nutmeg and all those types of flavors.
Yeah,
you don't think about the bright ones like lemon pepper and stuff like that you do during spring and summer.
Yeah. Wow. So we are very thankful and grateful that Watershed did reach out to us, and Amy and Ryan over there, supporting us, asking us to support them. It's always funny when
even the neck label and the bottle tops are different.
I mentioned I didn't see the cork, but I mentioned the neck.
But like
the
old one, the engraving is much deeper.
Yeah, it's interesting. A little more subtle on this new one, but the neck label is completely different.
Oh yeah,
completely different. But it's darker. I don't know. Both are good. I mean, But yeah, so it's always funny when, Amy from Watershed will reach out and be like, hey, it's that time again. We're releasing something. Would you and Nate want to try it on the show beforehand? I'm like, no, thanks.
Let me know when you say that, because then I'll reach out to Amy.
No, it's Corey. I mean, yeah,
Like,
obviously it's
Amy,
we're a fan, obviously.
Drunk. He didn't know what he was talking about. Like, yes, absolutely. Just send them to me instead, and I'll pick them up.
It has not been a problem. Has not been a problem. Yeah, Ann has a great question here, so we'll see if between her asking it, I kind of mentioned it earlier here.
Because I had asked Ryan that, why did you put fall finish series on this one? Whereas obviously batch 3 didn't have it. And he goes, well, maybe we're going to release something else during the fall. Like, all right, you're trying to be cryptic. But yeah, chances are they, because it was almost a year ago when we had Wes on for the 5-year Nocino finish.
Correct.
So that's probably coming up before the end of the year as well. Who knows? Maybe they're doing more wine finishes because that came out last year as well.
They might be. The thing is this one is the lottery's at the end of October.
Yeah.
So this goes
26th.
Until the 26th. It's announced on the 27th of October. You pick it up starting the 28th. So if you're going to be releasing anything else, I don't see how it could be another lottery, because now you're pushing winter.
Yeah.
If you're going I guess you can go into November.
Unless
obviously.
They're going to sit there and go, hey, we're going to do a lottery project October. Then we're going to do another one November. And then we're going to do another one December.
No, it wouldn't be fall finishing series then.
Well, technically, fall goes until December 21st.
Yeah, but not in the Midwest. That's not, you don't consider December 15th fall, do you?
No, but
you don't.
Technically it is.
All right. Just saying. Yes. Anyways, no answer from.
Well, and Ann said series
Ryan.
implies at least 3. I just said October, November, December.
Yeah. We shall see. The fall finishing series doesn't always have to be. This could be like they do it this fall, and then next year there's a fall finishing series. You know what I mean? That's true. They could do that. You never know.
That would suck. That means we'd have to wait 12 months for the next one.
Or they might release something and just it's not a lottery. It's just, hey, we're launching this at the distillery on November 15th or whatever it is. You know what I mean? They're doing it before Thanksgiving. They'd say, hey, say it is a Nocino or something, or one of the other ones. It's like, we've got the next fall finishing series, blank, whatever it is. It's released on Saturday, blah, blah, blah. And this is completely, I have no information on this. It's just
all hypothetical.
Another way you could do it. And then they lock down Grandview and don't go there on Saturday unless you're going to Watershed.
Yeah.
That has happened before, I believe.
Yes. Yes, it has.
All right. Any other notes on this right now? If you guys have any other questions about this, once again, it's available through lottery only. The lottery's open right now, watersheddistillery.com. And you have until the end of day on Thursday, October 26th to register on there. The MSRP. So if you win the lottery, I want to specify this. If you win the lottery, that does not mean you win a bottle. You wins you the opportunity to buy a bottle from Watershed directly. At retail, I believe, from my information, you have to be able to pick it up at Watershed. They will not ship this to you. So for those listeners that are out of the state, out of the area, if you're out of the area and you're able to make it into Columbus area to pick it up, you win it, you enter it, you win it. Contact them, say when you can be in the area, and hopefully they'll work with you. If you're out of the state and you have no intention of coming to Columbus, Ohio anytime in the near future, don't enter it.
So I do remember there, I think it was 2 years ago, I'd won one of their lottery bottles, and I showed up to pick it up. And there was a lady that showed up right after me. She was from Florida. And
it's a long drive for a bottle of booze.
She had entered the lottery when she was in town during the lottery being open. And then when she found out she won, she goes, awesome, cool. I need to go back to Ohio anyway, and just flew back here for work and stopped in and got her bottle. It was like, holy. And she bought glasses and shirts.
Oh, yeah. If you're going to make that trip. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll take
there
one
are
of
people from
those,
out of
one
state
these,
that
some of these naked lady tees from what Caddyshack. Never mind. Bobby Crow did say he's if he wins, booking a flight back to Ohio. There you go. There you go. All right. So
Thanks for the warning.
yeah. Take a few more sips of this. Do you want to light up the cigar, or do you want to? I hate to rush this glass here, but do you want to?
Do you want me to go get 2 new glasses and do batch 3?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to be alone. I don't like being alone.
Do you want to just pop the cork on batch 3 and just swig right out of the glass?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to chug it, but I am going to drink this a little bit.
Chug it.
Bobby Crow says new glasses. I think we're just going to stick with this. You gonna be able to finish that?
So it's funny.
We'll slow down after this one going into. Okay. Just chug it out.
No, so it was funny. The other night, I had a glass of whiskey, and I had definitely more than this. I probably had about 2 ounces in the glass, and I had taken a sip, and Jess turned around. She goes, "Oh, and she said something. And I was like, "Oh, really?" And I just took the glass and I went, "Cheers." And I mean, full 2 ounces and just down the hatch. I was like,
how'd that go over?
"Oh, it was fine."
Oh, cool.
I proceeded to drink more. It was a bottled in bond, so it wasn't that strong.
100
compared to some of the other stuff.
100.
All
right, I'm pouring a little bit of batch 3. I'm gonna take a sip and then we'll light up the cigar. There you go. I mean, help yourself. So now we're going to be drinking. This is batch number 3. What we have left of it, not too much. What is it, a quarter bottle? Less?
Call it a quarter.
Yeah. Now, mind you, this has been open for
a year.
I want to hear what you have to say.
Brighter on the nose.
Yeah.
And this one's coming in at 126.1 versus 127.5. So they're only
right in the same neighborhood, right?
0.7%. Yeah, that's pretty darn close. Definitely brighter on the nose.
You have to do that right in the mic. They don't want to hear that.
I get more fruit flavor on, like I get some cherry on the palate on the batch 3.
See that?
Oh yeah. Thanks for joining us and pouring batch 2. Awesome.
I don't think I have any of that.
I still have a little bit
somewhere.
I still have a little bit of that Black Label Marianne Eves.
I've got this much left. I don't want to drink it because I love that so much.
I know, it was so good.
I have a friend that's got, I think, almost a full bottle.
It was like 132 proof, so around there.
Yeah, it's also $150.
It was. You and I should just bring our bottles together and just like, hey, let's have a night. Let's just finish both of them off.
Merry Christmas.
Maybe we'll do that around the holiday season at the Tinder Box.
Yeah.
Just bring those in and go, fuck it.
Let's go. This for me.
No, Jess, you do not need to bring it to me.
All right.
Sorry.
And Ann Doing says Marianne's bottle will be our next pour. I don't know if it's the barrel pick or if it's the Black Label.
Yeah, there was the single barrel that she did with them. And then there was that Black Label, which was a blend using some of that barrel pick.
That Black Label was sick.
Oh, you couldn't read it. It was horribly It was not photogenic.
That's her whole thing, though.
Whatsoever.
That's Marianne's whole thing.
Yeah, the whole Eve's Blind, with the black Glencairn glasses and the black box and foam and all that stuff. Yes, that's her thing. That bottle was not photogenic at all.
So this, for me, it is not as. Again, now granted, this is the
Third drink of the night.
Third drink. And it's been open for
and we're only 42 minutes in.
Like I said, we're going to have to slow down here. But this is, it's not as in your face. This is more balanced, I think. And again, mind you, this is after having two regular pours of the number 4, but this one is, I think this is brighter. The number 4 is like brighter. It's more exciting, where this one's going to be a little bit more subdued. This is
I was going to say subdued. Good words.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's the fact that it's been sitting for a while, and I don't know what, and drinking the number 2 of this, I would imagine that you let this sit after it's been open for a little while, it will be a little bit more subdued.
I actually did watch a video where a guy took a bottle that had been open for a year and then a fresh bottle, and actually did a side-by-side blind taste
and
to see if he could pick out what was which. And he actually preferred the flavor of the brand new one.
Okay.
Because sometimes that bottle oxidizes a little bit and it tastes musty.
Well, I think, again, that's something that that's what the distillery intended the flavor to be, is once when it's been freshly opened, that's what they wanted you to drink.
Well, they also want you to drink it, not drink a little bit and then sit on the shelf for 2 years.
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation. I think it was Ricky Rodriguez. He was in town once, and he goes, cigar manufacturers hate humidors, the personal humidors, the desktop humidors, because we want you to buy a cigar and smoke it. We don't want you to buy a cigar and sit on it for 2 years. We want you to just repeatedly buy a cigar, smoke it. Same thing with distilleries. They want you to buy a bottle and drink it.
Yeah.
So that way you buy another one.
Yeah.
They don't want you to buy a bottle and sit on it, or buy bottles and collect them. So that way you can trade up. Fuck you.
You done?
Yep.
You sure? You want to get anything else out?
Good.
You're in a
said
safe,
what I said.
You're in a safe space. All right, let's light up the cigar.
Jess, do not drive over that bottle. Quit texting me. Don't drive it over.
Jess, we'll have it another time.
We've got plenty of whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather actually share that bottle with other people that include Steve than just Steve and I kill the rest of that bottle. Especially when we got, such gracious gifts.
Wait, is this the black label?
Yeah.
Hey, Jess, we'll see you in about 5.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Kick your ass. I don't know how many would it take to kick my ass, but I knew how many they were going to use.
And says, but have you ever gotten musty out of a fresh bottle?
Yes.
And there's a, quote, funky, end quote, parentheses, which I love, and musty, which is it?
I have gotten that kind of profile from a new bottle, but I attribute that to like the mash bill, the aging, blending, whatever, to that bottle. I don't necessarily attribute it to, it's been open and sitting in someone's cellar, for a year or two.
I'm lighting up. I'm lighting up the Camacho broadleaf. You have not lit this up yet. So Camacho brought out. They really haven't really done much to add to their portfolio. For those that are going to be, more on the whiskey side of it, we obviously feature cigars as well on this podcast. So the Camacho line, we've gone over the history in the past. Just a brief history. Camacho was owned by Christian Eiroa, and then was sold to Davidoff. They worked together for a while. Now they are completely separate. Camacho is based out of Honduras, and this is going to be, again, owned by Davidoff. They rebranded these, and this is a terrible label for this to be shown on this video, because
it's like a copper.
It is a copper one, but it's a bigger label. I should have brought the box, because these were the last 2 in the box. But
the boxes I love.
The boxes are this really high lacquer. It's a black top,
glossy,
and then
as hell.
the rest of the box is the color of the band, and then there's a description. You open it up. They're beautiful boxes, very high class. Where Camacho is going to be more of, their whole thing is going to be more of like a bold line of cigars, and that's their whole their whole shtick. That's their whole thing. This is the newest cigar from them. They have since right before this discontinued some of their line, the Criollo, which was the yellow one. For those that are familiar with that,
which was my favorite.
It was I enjoyed that cigar as well. I would not be surprised if that's still in their portfolio somewhere else. It just must have been underperforming at some point. This they also discontinued the barrel aged ones. I think the American barrel aged, the Nicaraguan barrel aged one. It was a good time to market it as that.
Yeah.
But,
well, it was funny because they came out with the first one, like, hey, this is a barrel aged, cigar, and there was another company that was like, we've been doing that for the last 15 years.
It was a good time to market it. And then you're talking about Perdomo. Perdomo then rebranded some of their stuff and put bourbon barrel aged on there. But this one here, what I like about this, just in the idea behind the cigar, is the fact that broadleaf, when I think of broadleaf in the cigars, as it's a wrapper leaf, and is Connecticut broadleaf. Now there's some Nicaraguan broadleaf out there. There's some Pennsylvania broadleaf out there. Do you know about this cigar?
I've not smoked this yet.
This has Dominican Honduran filler, a Honduran binder, a Honduran broadleaf wrapper leaf. So that's where for those that are into the cigar side of things on this show, that is something, like, as far as I know, this is the first cigar that I've smoked that has a Honduran broadleaf wrapper. So broadleaf seed, broadleaf is a tobacco seed, and that's been grown in Honduras by Camacho. Okay, so this is a Honduran grown broadleaf wrapper, which again, to my knowledge, as a mass produced cigar, this is fairly rare, if not extremely rare so far. So I know that Nicaraguan broadleaf, it's even funny to me because there are several companies that when I hear on the back end that this is actually Nicaraguan broadleaf, they were just saying it was broadleaf, and there was almost an assumption that it was Connecticut broadleaf.
Yeah, because that's the popular one and the best.
That's the best, and that's what was known. But as we've known with Connecticut shade-grown stuff, it's marketed as Connecticut, but now it's more commonly known that a lot of times you're going to have an Ecuadorian Connecticut, and now we have some Plasencia-grown Connecticut seed in Nicaragua.
Well, then you have the Romeo and Julieta Connecticut Nicaragua, which is Plasencia makes that for Romeo and Julieta. That's all Nicaraguan. That was a 5-year project, and it was the first cigar to utilize a Nicaraguan grown Connecticut shade wrapper.
Right. So this one, that's all I know about this cigar so far. They haven't, as far as I know, they haven't really disclosed much more about it. Obviously, they say it's a rugged and unapologetic flavor profile. Because again, I'm not making fun of it, but that's their thing, right? I mean, this is going to be something that's their whole image. It's bold. It's unapologetic. They use that on a lot of their marketing, and it's funny because the boxes, they're bold, but they're super classy. They're like piano finish boxes.
Oh, high gloss.
Yeah, so
high gloss. The funniest thing though, when you were talking about them changing their packaging, both the band and the box that came in, I remember when I was back in my first shop, that happened, and then a few months later, Tarano, that had then been bought out by STG, did the exact same thing. The bands were almost identical.
Blatant ripoff.
The boxes were identical. I was like, could you guys make it any less obvious that you're ripping off Camacho?
It was pretty obvious. They knew that, and then they're not. That's not around anymore that I know of, unless it's online. I have not seen it much, but
I have seen Camacho online, but not Camacho. I've seen Tarano online, but they went back to the old labels.
So this one, again, being mostly Honduran tobacco, there's Dominican in the filler, right? But you have that Honduran broadleaf. There's a couple things I want to say about this, and then I want to hear what you have to say about, or what you have to think about this, your name. Is that this can go one of two ways. And I told the rep this. What?
No, you said let's go one two ways. I'm like, all right, I want to hear this.
No, my part here. So when you market a cigar as broadleaf, so going like with whiskey, when you say it's like a high rye or whatever, like it's almost like when you market something as a well-known
Term.
concept, term, whatever, consumers are expecting or can be expecting something, right?
Absolutely.
So with this being just called broadleaf, not saying Honduran broadleaf, just the Camacho broadleaf. First of all, looking at it, it's not necessarily looking like a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper leaf to me. So I'm
Absolutely
confused
not.
on that. Lighting this up when I first had a sample of this from Dan Burris, the rep from Camacho and Davidoff, it was that's what I said to him. As soon as I started smoking this, I'm like, well, so there's a couple different ways this can go. This does not smoke like your typical, to me, broadleaf wrap cigar, Connecticut broadleaf, like really bold, the certain like earthy, but also leather and
espresso,
like
dark
espresso,
chocolate.
So I need to change the banner here. So that's where it's like for me, when you see it like on the screen, that's why I would change it right now. Camacho broadleaf. I'm expecting certain characteristics from a cigar. So for me, I smoke this expecting a broadleaf. It's not that I don't like the cigar, but it's not what I expected, if that makes sense. So like it's like you're marketing it as a broadleaf cigar with the afterthought of putting Honduran broadleaf in all the descriptions, right? So it's if people don't like broadleaf, they might like this cigar, like broadleaf cigars or broadleaf wrapper.
Yeah.
Typically, if they're just like, oh, it's like some people don't like Cameroon or they don't like certain,
Yep.
I don't really, they go even broader. I don't really care for like all Dominican puros or anything, but they say I don't care for Connecticut broadleaf cigars typically. Well, that's the thing. This doesn't smoke like that to me.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm saying from a marketing standpoint, you're grabbing people that want a broadleaf. Well, I'm going to steer you more towards, even though it's not broadleaf, the Camacho Triple Maduro from their portfolio. I would push you towards that. I would say, oh, you like the Flathead from CAO. You like the Rocky Patel Sun-Grown Maduro. You like these broadleaf wrap cigars. You like, even like from a Dominican standpoint, you like some of the Fuente broadleaf or the Ashton. It's like, I'm not going to steer you to this because what about that new Camacho broadleaf? It's like, so that's good. Not what, like, it's not what you're thinking. And I'm going to say it's a Honduran broadleaf. Well, why is that different? Well, it's grown in a different place. I don't know why, but I don't think this smokes like your typical broadleaf. Now, again, this is broadleaf Connecticut or Honduran or whatever else over Honduran tobacco, which again isn't as common either.
Yes, that can definitely affect the flavor profile.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I do like broadleaf, especially the broadleaf Maduro. Love that type of wrapper. When I hear the term broadleaf Maduro or broadleaf, I think of Liga Number 9, stuff like Liga 9 and Crown Heads La Carême.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the cigars I think about when I hear that term. So just looking at this, I'm like, well, this has nowhere near as dark a color.
I would guess this is a Habano wrapper, looking at it.
So, wait. Is it broadleaf or? Well, okay.
No,
so
it's Honduran broadleaf.
Yeah.
I would say, looking at it, I'd guess it was like a Habano wrapper, maybe.
Yeah, because just that color that it has. It doesn't have the same color as a Connecticut broadleaf that people are used to. So this may be something that people who are fans of Honduran tobacco and haven't quite experienced Connecticut broadleaf, like this may be a gateway for them to try broadleaf grown somewhere else or a different style of tobacco grown in Honduras. I think people who are fans of Connecticut broadleaf, this is going to fall short. That
was my point on the way you market this as just Camacho broadleaf.
Yeah.
But what do you think of the cigar, details of the blend and everything else aside?
So it definitely does not have the richness, dark flavors like espresso and dark chocolate that I typically get with Connecticut broadleaf, which I absolutely love. So it was a little misleading before you said that it was a Honduran grown broadleaf. Because if someone handed me this cigar with no band and said this is broadleaf, I would look at the cigar just by the appearance and the color. I'd be like, I'm gonna call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
And then when I smoke it, I would wait. Where's the flavor? Where's the flavor characteristics that I'm used to of Connecticut broadleaf?
There's a lot of flavor in this cigar. But
there is a lot of flavor. If you sat there and said this is a Honduran wrapper, even if you didn't say broadleaf, if you just told me that this was a Honduran wrapper and there was a lot of Honduran tobacco in this blend, I would completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Because it has a lot of characteristics of Honduran tobacco to me. It has a lot of dryness, a lot of woodiness to it. It kind of dries out your palate, which I get from that's what I personally get from a lot of Honduran heavy blends.
Okay.
So like this, if you told me, hey, here's a Honduran cigar, so far into this, I'd be like, okay, this is actually kind of what I would expect from a Honduran. There's something a little bit off about it. If you then told me, well, the wrapper is actually a broadleaf grown in Honduras, I'm like, okay, that's what's off about it. If you handed me this and I was blindfolded and you said, hey, here's a broadleaf wrapped cigar, I would be smoking this going, I'm going to call bullshit.
Yeah.
It's on both sides of the fence of that.
So it's funny that you say that because I think Camacho by Davidoff, so they've done a lot of good things with it. I mean, it's not necessarily originally they were like trying not to go too far from the Aroa side of things, you know, and I think with Christian and the company working with them initially that made more sense, you know, but they've done some things that the marketing is strong, but I will say that sometimes I feel like it misses. And again, not to talk bad about Camacho or Davidoff, I even did a Camacho course. This was around 2021 or whatever. And it was almost like they're so far into the branding of stuff that they kind of lost their way a little bit, trying to be consistent, but make different cigars, where like the Corojo was the red. That used to be the brown label, if I'm mistaken, of the original Camacho with Christian Rowe. I was like all Corojo. And they were marketing as this bold, spicy one. They had a Corojo Maduro, which I really like that cigar. It was a darker red label on it. They discontinued that. Didn't do, I guess, shit at all. Then you had the Criollo, which they've now discontinued, but that was a strong seller for a while. It was the yellow wrap. It was Criollo wrapper over, you know, mostly Honduran tobacco. And then you had the Ecuador came out. That was the new release, you know, after that. The Triple Maduro was supposed to be consistent with the Triple Maduro, the Camacho before. Then you had the Criollo, you had the Corojo, you had all this stuff. And then you had the Ecuador with that new one. That was the new release. And
that teal band. I did like that.
It was an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper. And I thought it was very good. It is good. Mm-hmm. And then more recently, you had the other ones we talked, like the barrel aged stuff. Then you had the Nicaragua come out with the off red, orange, sort of.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
That came out, and that was the one where it's like all the cigars had the name of it based on the wrapper leaf. Mm-hmm. And I still remember I was on that this little webinar thing. And on the quiz, it was like, you know, all this. And I got the answer right. And they said I got it wrong. And I even told the rep, Dan, I said, the Camacho Nicaragua does not have a Nicaraguan wrapper on it. He's like, right. And I said, but on the quiz, that was part of the question. And now you've got this coming out with a new one. And I love the color of it. It is good. I do like the copper.
The copper and
I
black.
think it looks great.
Yeah.
The marketing on that is good. And I like the broadleaf. I just wish that they would have done a little bit more on the Honduran broadleaf, you know, like push it. Like Camacho is a Honduran brand. Like let's go with that. I know it doesn't look as cool or sexy if you had Honduran broadleaf on there, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think these are nitpicking things. I like this cigar actually, and I've smoked a few of them. I think it's a very nice cigar. I don't, like, to your point, I don't think of broadleaf though.
Yeah. It is a good cigar. My issue with Camacho is I think they have actually survived too long. Like for the past decade, I think they've been trying to live off of the reputation when it was owned by Christian and his family. I think that I think they've been trying to get by living off of that reputation. They've tried to introduce some new things since then, such as the Nicaragua, the barrel
Ecuador.
finishes, or the Ecuador. You had the teal band, you had the couple different barrel finish ones. But again, they're discontinuing that. They're discontinuing the Criollo. I think they've gone. I think they've relied too heavily on what the cigars used to be, 15 years ago.
So
this is kind of one of the first things that I shouldn't say first. This is another thing that they've done to try to set themselves apart from the previous generation of them, but it may not hit as well as they're hoping to.
So I will agree with you to a point and then also disagree with you because
that's fine.
You couldn't get away from it. Yes, the name Camacho, but again, Christian didn't found this company.
True.
Yeah. Christian Eiroa. This and you couldn't separate the branding of the original, the Christian Eiroa owned Camacho.
Yeah.
They revamped everything. The bold, the big bands, the black lacquer boxes. They had the Torch It Up tour that they had where they were like raffling off a Harley. They were driving around an F350 or 250.
Is that when they were also doing their arm wrestling?
Yeah, and we had that event here in Columbus at our shop, and it was arm wrestling. It was the Harley, and another custom bike was there. They had a cocktail mixology contest. They had a blind taste testing.
I remember that.
Like we had to hire. They hired in like 2 local
models.
Call them models.
Loosely.
It was one of those things where it was a whole thing. They had a brand ambassador, George Ramey, and I think he's still with them. And they just push this. And I think they had a pop, and then they realized that you can't keep that up budget-wise.
Oh, God, no.
Davidoff's got deep pockets, but you can't keep that up. But that was such a great tour. They had, it was making me want to smoke like the Camacho Corojo. I like that. I think initially they did enough off of that. If you were paying attention, not saying it in a negative way, but if you were paying attention and you were a part of that, they were not trying to go off of Christian's name or the Camacho name. They were,
okay.
It's on there. They say infamous. Again, it's unapologetic. Infamous since 1962. They have the history behind it, but it's they got the scorpion behind it. All the, I have a great polo that was, Camacho, and on the back, right up top,
scorpion.
Got a scorpion.
Yeah.
I think they've done enough to try to reinvent themselves. And you're right, Tarano under SDG. At that point, they blatant ripoff, which I didn't get, but I think they did enough on this. The issue for me now is, and we're talking negatively about this, and then I want to get to Bobby Crow had a comment on this, is now they're trying to introduce new cigars. I just feel like marketing people are running this with the cigar people in the background, putting out some good cigars.
I agree.
And it's the people that did this initial relaunch and the rebranding, great job. I don't know if they're still in charge of it, but I feel as though it's it's one of those things. It's do you even smoke cigars is my question. I wouldn't be surprised either way that yes, we do smoke cigars, or no, not really. We just, we do the marketing behind it and they're using Hunter and Broadleaf. It's
yeah, you can see both sides.
I can see both sides. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put this comment up here. But Bobby Crow had a great way because we're getting the branding of it. And again, I think we went a little bit harder on Camacho with the branding than we did with Watershed. But he said his question here, what do you think of it if you had no idea what it is? And then if you did a blind smoke, like you were talking about, not knowing it was a Camacho, what is your opinion of it? My opinion of it is I like this cigar. I think, again, after we did have some drinks of this, really kind of potent and really powerful flavor whiskey. Mm-hmm. I like it. I actually would. I feel like they blended this cigar utilizing mostly Honduran and some Dominican tobacco to compete with some of the an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper. Even though they're Ecuadorian Habano, the Ecuador with the teal band, that's more floral. It's more a little bit lighter notes, where this has got, I think, a little bit of spice, but it's not the same spice as what their Corojo has. This to me smokes more blindly, Robert Crow. This smokes more like a. It does have the Honduran, but it's got a little spice to it. It's got a little bit of that earthy spice.
You did say it has some Nicaraguan in the filler.
That's not what it said.
What'd you say the makeup of it was?
Honduran broadleaf, Honduran binder, and then Honduran. I'll go to their website. I was on Half Wheel there, but it's Honduran and Dominican fillers there.
Okay.
We'll go to their official website.
I mean, if I was smoking this blind, because it has so much dryness and cedar notes, wood notes to the flavor profile, I would guess it was Honduran heavy in the blend because it doesn't have the spice that I expect of like a Nicaraguan Puro or something like that.
No, I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't even guess that this was a broadleaf wrapper. If I was smoking it blind, I wouldn't guess it was a broadleaf. Like you said, it looks like a Habano wrapper. If I was smoking it blind, Habano would be a guess. So could Sumatra, without looking at the wrapper and being able to tell some of the hue differences. I would, like I said, I wouldn't expect this to be a broadleaf. If I smoked this and I said, yeah, it tastes like Honduran tobacco, and you're like, well, it is primarily Honduran tobacco, I'm like, all right, cool. I was right on that. If I said it was, Habano or Sumatra, and you said, well, it's actually broadleaf, I'd be really disappointed.
That's going back to what I was saying, yeah. But to his point, not knowing what's your opinion of it, that's where stick with that, if you don't mind. I'm sorry.
If I didn't know what this was, I would sit there and smoke it and go, all right, this smokes like a nice Honduran cigar. Like it doesn't wow me.
Okay.
Like this, like you said early on when we were talking about the cigar, this is, to your knowledge, the first time that you've seen a Honduran broadleaf. Obviously, if this is the first one, I would never pick that out. I would never guess that, because if you sit there and say broadleaf, I'm going to assume 98% of the time. What's up, Mike? I'm going to assume 98% of the time that you're talking about a Connecticut broadleaf.
Yeah.
So if I was smoking, it's like, yeah, this tastes like this, and then you tell me, oh, it's a broadleaf. Like,
yeah,
really, is it a broadleaf?
You're getting hung up on the broadleaf thing. To Bobby Crow's question, though, you said it's okay. You're not wild about it. I think this is a solid smoke. I think this is something that I do get some spice from it. It's not as dry for me as you said it was for you, but I will say
Honduran tobacco just hits me that way.
Yeah, I get it. Blindly, Bobby Crow, this is Bobby says your feelings are so hurt knowing it's broadleaf. Like,
I'm disappointed.
That was my whole marketing side of things. But yeah, I think objectively this cigar is a nice cigar. It draws nicely. I think it smokes consistently with a lot of the Camachos where the ash doesn't stay on as long.
I'll give you that. Absolutely.
So, but it does smoke well. It doesn't smoke fast, right? So
no. When
I say the ash doesn't hold on, I'm not saying like it smokes like a short filler cigar by any means, but it's just it's funny. They do the whole bold, type of a marketing behind it, but I think it's more of your everyday kind of, this is, and I think they hit it on the head with the marketing side of it, with the bikers, with all that stuff, and like the boldness. And I think they go a little overboard with the marketing on, like, when I look even on the Davidoff site. Blindly, though, I like this cigar. I've enjoyed the few I've had, and if I didn't see the band or they used even just Honduran broadleaf on there, I'm more intrigued. So to Nate's point, it's deceiving to those that have enjoyed broadleaf cigars. But like I said, I think it smokes like maybe an Ecuadorian Habano, like I've said, wrapper leaf over some Honduran tobacco, maybe even some Corojo in there. But it's just this. I enjoy the cigar. To your question, Bobby, this is a nice one. And just not to beat a dead horse here, on the Davidoff site, they go with the the bigger and bolder smoke to satisfy thrill seekers, like all that stuff. Like it's like that's fine as long as you keep with the marketing and the tours behind it. But it says, don't let this dark, oily Honduran broadleaf wrapper fool you.
Dark.
That was my point. So I don't. I think they missed there as far as the marketing side of it.
So Davidoff. I know Davidoff has obviously the Davidoff line. They have Zeno. They have Camacho. What are some of the other brands that are owned by Davidoff?
Say Avo.
Avo. Yep.
Griffins.
Griffin. Okay.
Baccarat. They bought that when they got from Aroa.
Okay.
Yeah. So Baccarat. That's why
I didn't realize Baccarat was one of theirs.
Yeah. So that was one of the ones that. So that's why you see today. Not to get off of Camacho, but that's where Asylum Insidious. If you've seen those, that's like their rebranded Baccarat.
So I mean,
so they've got a hell of a portfolio. Obviously, Davidoff is their flagship. Zeno's up there. Avo's up there. And then Camacho was kind of, it's not like this offshoot, but it is not consistent with Davidoff, Avo, Griffins, Baccarats, and then you have Camacho over here. That was, I think they acquired that and just really. So
that's kind of what I was thinking. I forgot that Baccarat was part of that deal. I forgot Avo, but I knew Avo was owned by them. So when we take Avo, Zeno, Griffin, Davidoff, and then you throw in Camacho, when you look at price points, Camacho's outside of Baccarat, Camacho's the low point.
Yeah, that's where I say it's like their everyday bold smoke. That's where I think it is something where I think they rebranded it in a very cool way. And then we can move on from this. Is that, you know, where Christian Aroa, when he owned Camacho, it was kind of an elegant band, you know, with the C on there and the Camacho symbol and all that stuff.
I have one of the old school Camacho T-shirts. It's black with gray.
I had a great hat I used to wear for softball. It's a mess up there, but it's on the shelf, and it's a cool hat. But it's I like the rebranding. Like I said, I am a sucker sometimes for marketing, just like anyone else. So when they did the Torch It Up tour, it was like, bro, this was the coolest event. We had 100 people there. We did arm wrestling. I was the taste.
But also, arm wrestling is no longer allowed at Tinder Box.
This was after you had to sign a waiver. This was off-site.
Yeah, but there was an incident.
All right, we don't need to get into that. But to my point, like, so that's what I'm saying is that, like, they did a great job rebranding it. And I feel as though, and I've even asked our rep recently, like, is George still with the company? Because I'll see him every once in a while on Instagram. But it's like, you had this brand ambassador thing. You're putting out some new cigars, but I don't really see effort like you did when you first launched this. And I'm sure that Torch It Up tour cost so much money. They had a trailer with bikes on it. They had that decal flames everywhere on this F-250 whatever dual. I don't know if it was a dually or not, but it was.
If it was dually, it was a 350.
I think it was a 250, but it was this sweet, you know. And then they raffled off the Harley that was all done up in Camacho. I mean, they went all in on it. I thought it was so cool. And I was really, I was a sucker for it. I thought it was great. I was hoping that my old roommate, who actually won the raffle ticket for this event here in Columbus, out of all the events, and there was 50 of them, so we had like 1 out of 50 raffle tickets for that Harley.
So 2%.
And he the night before there at Blend in Indianapolis, and that person won it out of the drawing. And I was hoping that Chris would win it because he didn't ride, and I did. And I was like, what would be even better for me to just ride up to the Tinder Box and park a Camacho Harley outside the shop? It would be like a double win there. You know what I mean? I got a bike, pay taxes on it, and then I could maybe have, you know, the shop pay those taxes, because then it'd be like a marketing vehicle.
Marketing, it's
slap
expensive.
a Tinder Box at Easton, magnet on there. Here we go. Bingo, bango.
Yeah, it does feel like, yes, when Davidoff first purchased Camacho from Christian, they did a lot with the marketing to try and separate themselves. I still think a little bit they're trying to. They did enough to try and separate themselves initially, but I think their reputation is they're still trying to live off of the previous, ownership and blend of cigars and that reputation. but they haven't really put a whole lot into it since then because, and like, this is what I was trying to get to when I was bringing up all the other different brands that they own, because really this, outside of Baccarat, this is the low tier in their portfolio. This is, as you said, the everyday, but Davidoff is not your everyday reputation. Davidoff, Zeno,
No,
like that's not, even the Griffins being, technically they're still in that average price point of,
same prices,
12 to 15.
Yeah.
But I think this one's kind of gone a little bit by the wayside for them in terms of what they're putting effort into.
To that point, good news for them is that most people don't know Camacho is owned by Davidoff.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's like the same people that don't know that, Cohiba is owned by the same company that owns Punch, and they put Punch as a blue collar cigar. So, I mean, that's just how they're doing it, and I understand that. Let's kind of wrap up part one, because we have been going after this a little while here. Not too long. It's a little over an hour. But we do the pairing here, the rating of the pairing, the cigar, and the whiskey. So the whiskey, again, that we're featuring here, and I will pour myself, you poured a little bit more, is the new Watershed Distillery. This is the barrel strength fall finishing series, 6-year bourbon whiskey finished in apple brandy barrels, batch number 4.
Barrel strength.
I said barrel strength.
Oh, okay.
And this is available through the lottery on watersheddistillery.com. And this one is going to be, the lottery is open now. Go there, enter. The bottle costs $89.99 if you do win a chance to buy this bottle. And this lottery is open until October 26th, right before midnight. And then you've got, hang on one second. And then you've got, it'll announce the winners on the 27th, and you can start picking them up in Columbus at the distillery on the 28th, which is a Saturday, all this month. So you've got a little over a week to enter the lottery. And again, thank you to Amy, thank you to Ryan, thank you to Greg, everyone at Watershed Distillery for giving us this bottle to review and talk to you guys about. And hopefully there are going to be some people. If you do enter the lottery, throw that out on the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook. We're 1,700 members strong, but throw it out there that you entered the lottery and you're hoping to win. And I'm not going to say that's going to increase your chances of winning, but hopefully that will get some more people to enter and get some excitement about this. So you brought out one of the OHLQs here.
Your glass is about empty, so I
was going to do that while we're reviewing. Maybe for part 2, we pour a little bit of that. Is that right?
Okay.
All right.
So if I had to go while you're taking your last sip of that bottle,
please do.
Whiskey. Anyone who's watched this, I'm a huge fan of Watershed products. I love their single barrels. I love their special releases that they do. I go out and buy them when I have the opportunity. Obviously, being part of this podcast has afforded me the chance to be able to receive some quote unquote media bottles from them, but it's still something that I go out and
it costs influencers on that.
And it's still something that I go out and buy. I still like their products. I've got a plethora of their bottles in my cabinet that I drink from. Like I said earlier in this part, I recently just finished off Nochino Batch 3 because I have another bottle of Batch 3. Like I really do enjoy their products. So this one, it's a 9 for me. I really enjoy this bottle. I love a lot of the stuff they do. Honestly, I'm not necessarily a fan of everything that they do because they do a lot of stuff, but I genuinely enjoy their whiskeys. Their strawberry gin is probably my favorite gin. But I absolutely love their bourbons that they do, their barrel finishes. This one's no different. I really do enjoy this bottle. I hope I win it in the lottery.
Have you entered the lottery yet?
I haven't.
Okay.
I entered the lottery the first day. In the event that Steve also, if I win it in the lottery and so does Steve, and Steve's debating on whether or not to spend the money on a bottle, I'll buy both.
Fair.
Because that's how much I do enjoy their bourbons. That's how much I enjoy this product. It's solid 9. I really do enjoy this.
Camacho Broadleaf.
Yep, that's where I was going. As far as the cigar, I give the cigar a 7. It's a good cigar. Doesn't necessarily wow me. Even if I was smoking it blind, didn't know it was Camacho, didn't know it was Broadleaf. It's good, not great. It doesn't stand out anyway. It's a good smoke. 7 to me is a solid buy. And I think that's what this is. If I was going off of, hey, here's a Broadleaf and I smoked this cigar, I'd probably rate it lower. So I'm giving my 7 based solely on the flavor profile and the taste and the construction, the burn of the cigar itself. Not that it's Camacho, not that it's a Broadleaf. Because like I said, if I knew this was Broadleaf and smoked this, I would be disappointed. But it's a good cigar. What's the retail on this?
Same as all of theirs in their core series. I mean, the Toro is going to be coming around 10.
Okay.
10, 11.
And I would classify this as medium plus.
Say medium. For me, it's medium, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a strong cigar, not a light cigar. It's middle of the road. As far as the pairing, I would do a 7 on the pairing. I think this bottle overpowers this cigar. The cigar doesn't have enough balls to actually stand up to 127 proof whiskey that's 6 to 8 years old, finished in an apple brandy barrel. There's so much complexity with the bottle. There's not that much complexity with this cigar. The cigar smokes exactly what I would expect of a Honduran heavy blend.
Okay.
I absolutely love the bottle. I think the bottle overpowers this because it just has that dryness and that woodiness. It's kind of a little bit one-dimensional with the cigar. So the complexity of the bourbon overshadows that.
Got it. No, I think those are fair ratings. I am with you on the bottle. I think this is, again, I will preface this by saying this bottle is not for everyone. Because if you don't like the apple brandy characteristics, I mean, they are, it's on the label, as we've talked about tonight in length, is that, they had this juice in the apple brandy barrels for 2 to 3 years. So you're going to get a lot going on from that. And if I recall from earlier, is that it's 6, 7, and 8-year-old juice, right? This is what we're dealing with overall. I'm with you. I'll give it a 9. I think this is great. I like this expression that they've done now. This is the 4th time they've done this with the 6-year is what they call it. Again, some more years on some of the juice, but 6-year.
That's the minimum.
Correct. 6-year barrel strength, finished in apple brandy barrels. I like this whole fall finishing series. I think this is a great time of the year to bring this bottle out. I think this is going to be something that for those that do like some of the characteristics of some unique stuff, especially with the apple brandy, you're going to love this. It's very good. The cigar, I will give a 7.5, a little bit higher than you. I think I would agree with you that this is a straightforward cigar. I was influenced a little bit by the marketing behind it. I think it is something that is, so objectively, probably an 8. Overall, a little subjectively, I'll give it a 7.5. It does smoke well. To your point, Nate, it smokes straightforward. There's not a whole lot of complexity here. But on the pairing, I think that because you want to focus on a bottle like this, right? I don't know if you have on its own complex cigar that's got a lot going on there that you'd want to smoke it with this bottle, and vice versa. I don't think you'd want to drink this bottle with an overly complex cigar. So I think that this actually pairs. I'll give it an 8.5 on the pairing. I think this goes very well with it because we're able to do just like we did tonight. We're focusing on the bottle and smoking a cigar with it that I don't think takes away from the bottle. And yeah, the bottle overpowers it a little bit, but I'm still getting the flavors from the cigar. So I think that 8.5 on the pairing for me is because I don't know what I would want to smoke with this bottle.
Ooh, I do.
What would you smoke with the bottle?
Monte Cristo 1935.
You would smoke that with most bottles.
Just
saying.
High proof bottles, I would. Yes.
I put on the screen here for those that are listening, and you guys can just check it out. It's watersheddistillery.com/ and then there's a whole lot. Just go to watersheddistillery.com, and then right now on the top of the page, there's a link that you can hit that'll take you to this, but it's like bourbon finish in apple brandy barrels. So just click on the link, watersheddistillery.com. It'll take you to that lottery. Just scroll down, I'll give you some more information about it. Again, $89.99 for the bottle if you win the opportunity to buy that through the lottery. And again, you guys have until October 26th to enter. So do that if you guys are interested. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. And thank you to Ryan, who I think he's no longer with us on the feed, but he answered some questions. And Dimick with OHLQ, who was with Watershed when we first met her. And she, well, actually, she was with some Wild Turkey, I think. But when we first got her on the show, it was with Watershed. So good friend of the program and a lot of information between both of them. And thank you again, Amy, over at Watershed for hooking us up with this bottle to talk about tonight. And that's it, man. That's part one. Oh, put up the banner here. Thanks to our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio, Altadis USA. We've got a Monte Cristo Platinum Series for the second part here. And want to thank Cigar Company as well. And if you guys want to do patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast or Venmo at Bourbon and BS to support the show financially, we greatly appreciate that. Definitely not required. If you want some swag like what we are wearing, buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. And really the best way you guys can really help us out and help grow the community is by sharing, liking, commenting, reviewing, subscribing, telling a friend, all that stuff, sharing the show. That's the best way we can do it.
Or when we ask for ideas for part 2, throw a comment in there.
Absolutely. On the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook. Join that. We'd love to have you on there. It's an extension of this. Guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. We're going to take a quick intermission. Stay live on the feed, and then we'll do some part 2 conversation here. Thanks, guys. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
How are you?
What's up?
Did he tell you what I bring it?
No.
I did, but you didn't listen.
No, you're fine.
It's all right. We're on intermission, so.
Oh, yeah, he did. He did. Yeah, the original.
This isn't the original.
This isn't the.
This is what Tyler said.
This isn't the OG.
The OG from when they switched to AJ Fernandez.
Okay.
Like the first batch when they switched.
Tyler said that?
Dude, this does have this is some yellow cello.
So this is probably the relaunch of the original of this one because remember they added the.
Send him a picture.
Okay, yes. So this is the original AJ blend.
Not the red banded one that
Correct.
we talked about.
That
Which was
Lazona
still
did.
The second
That was the
rendition.
second, yeah.
Yeah, the
That
red
was the
label
second
was the
one.
second.
Okay.
There was a whole nother
I had
one.
on the way and it was fantastic.
Oh yeah, I'm sure this is.
So yeah, for those that are still listening live, so Mike Dieter, he's been on the show before several times. He actually just treated us with some of the Espinosa Murcielagos, but this is when they first 2016 or so when they first switched to AJ Fernandez producing this because he had the story I heard is that Eric, so it was EO brands originally, so it was Eric Espinosa and Eddie Ortega. They had a Murcielago originally that a lot of San Andres tobacco heard in it, but also the wrapper, right?
Yeah.
After the split, Eric started off again, Espinosa Cigars. He tried to reblend it. It had a red band on it, and he was trying to make it, to my knowledge, at the Lazona factory. Not happy with the wrapper leaf that he had. And again, guys, if you're listening to this, is that this is not gospel. This is what I heard through knowing Eric and everything else. And just so then when he was starting to partner up with AJ to match some of the production levels of what the 601 line was doing and some other stuff, AJ, I envision this in my mind is that they're just sitting there talking and he talks to AJ. He's like, yeah, just not happy with the San Andres Mexican wrapper leaf. So I got a shit ton of that. Yeah, that's what I envision. AJ, you know, is like, I got like, you need some? I'll make it for you. And Eric's like, oh yeah, let's mess around with it. And that's where this started, and that's where they're still at now. Is that AJ's making it out of his San Lotano factory or one of his factories, but he had his hands on so much more of this San Andres wrapper leaf that Eric just could not get his hands on enough to match that production level.
I have in my humidor a 601 Blue Lancero when it was still made
You want a glass?
at La Zona by Espinosa, rather before it shifted to AJ Fernandez. That was actually a gift from a customer at the Tinder Box at Easton. So anyone who knows me knows I love the 601 Blue. It's currently made by AJ Fernandez, but for a period of time it was made at La Zona for Eric Espinosa. So I actually have one of those, and I have one, and it's one of those types of cigars. It's like, I kind of want to hold on to it because it was the last of its kind, but also at the same time, I kind of want to smoke it because it's going to be freaking phenomenal.
This new one, this featured bottle.
Mike, you going to join us, or?
It's up to you.
We can put a chair there.
You sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right then.
I mean, the chair's right there and the mic's already plugged in.
What was the proof on this again?
It's on the label. It's 127.5. Yeah, you might want to take it easy.
Yeah. Cool. Literally last minute, I came from Toledo to here.
Okay, so for those listening, Mike Dieter is joining us. He just drove in from Toledo. And he actually brought, so for clarification, there was the original Murcielago, then there was the red label Murcielago, and then there was similar to now, kind of the Batman look Murcielago, but currently they will now have a secondary band underneath it. So this is one, and you can I know you probably can't see this very well online, but I can tell while this cigar is still in the cellophane that the cello has a lot of yellow to it. So that means that this cigar has been aged quite a bit. Some of the oils from that wrapper have leached into the cellophane. I'm sure that's going to be an absolutely phenomenal smoke. No, Bobby, to your question, I did not state that keeping cigars in the humidor was a sin. What I was saying was years ago when we had Ricky Rodriguez, who at the time was the brand ambassador and blender for CAO, now doing West Tampa Tobacco. That's his own project. Ricky had said that cigar makers hate humidors, like desktop personal humidors, because that means you're going to buy a cigar and sit on it. What they want you to do is to buy a cigar and smoke it, because then you're going to be smoking it repeatedly. When you smoke a cigar, it leaves a need to buy another cigar. That's what they want. Same thing with distilleries. When you buy a bottle, they want you to consume it, so that way you have to buy another bottle.
Oh, we need a mic.
Oh,
Grab that mic over there. Nate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Watch the bottles, glasses, everything. All right.
Cool.
And I got the sweater on now.
It's a very fancy looking sweater. Man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looks very warm.
Yeah, it's starting to drop here a little bit. So
Yes, Bobby,
sweater
that's
of the
what I have to
season
do
here.
when Steve has to take a break. Steve does it when I have to take a break. It happens. This
Bobby
is
had
the intermission.
Had to suit up here for the part two here.
Oh, it's a nice cardigan.
Thank you.
So it's funny, when Jess and I first moved, I had a box that had some of my sweaters in it, and it had a blue cardigan that she bought me because she's like, oh, this is like a Steve Crane sweater. And she donated that box to Goodwill. And I was like,
I take offense to that.
a couple weeks after, hold on, a couple weeks after the move, I was like, hey, that box that was in the hallway, What did you do with it? Oh, I took everything to Goodwill. I was like, you do realize that has the sweater that you bought me. She goes, oh no, do I need to go buy it back? I'm like, that kind of defeats the purpose of Goodwill. So
No, I mean, if you buy it back, you're donating, so that's fine. All right.
And she texted me that she still feels bad about that. It made for a great Halloween costume because I wore that and then had the curly hair wig.
Wow. All right. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 290, part 2, Beyond the BS. We are still sipping on some great bottles here from Watershed Distillery. And the featured bottle is their newest one, which is going to be a 6-year barrel strength, finished in apple brandy barrels. This is going to be batch number 4, and this is their fall finishing series. This bottle is available. I'm going to make sure to put this on the audio here before probably any of the other episodes, just so we can get some more people in that lottery. But it's available at watersheddistillery.com, and that's going to be a lottery that's available and open until October 26th for entry. They will announce the winners of that on October 27th, and then you can start picking up your bottles to buy and purchase on October 28th, which is a Saturday. So the bottle is $89.99. Listen to part 1 if you're just tuning in, or if you're just listening on the audio to part 2. Click over to part 1, and we have some answers from Ryan, who is the barrel manager,
cask manager.
Okay. That was barrel manager. I said barrel master. I like that better.
He probably does too.
But yeah, guys, check that out. We talked about that. We also smoked the Camacho Broadleaf. Talked about that quite a bit towards the second part of part 1. But now we are joined by a recently frequent guest and supporter of the podcast. And that's going to be Mike Dieter. He brought some cigars. He was in the area. You're based out of Indianapolis area. And so he was in the area with work, and he said, hey, I want to be in the area. Can I stop by the garage? I got some original of the rebrand of the Murcielago, and there's some yellow cello on there. And I'm looking forward to smoking that. I appreciate that. It's amazing. It's amazing what you'll find as you travel and go into some cigar shops and go into their humidors. We're smoking, for example, the Camacho Broadleaf in 2016, 2015, something like that. I went out to Cigar Fest, Poconos.
Yeah. And
on the way, we stopped in Pittsburgh, and we were at Bloom's, which is a shop in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And this guy, he's got so many cigars. The humidor's huge. It's an interesting shop all around. And he even has stuff down like in the basement in a humidor that he doesn't even know what's down there.
I've heard of that place before.
So, and I even in the back corner of this humidor, this was after the rebranding and everything else, and the purchase of it, and they had some of the Christian Aroa Camachos in there. So I bought a couple of the original Corojos, a couple of Triple Maduros, and all that stuff, and I walked up to this is literally a desk, and the owner of the shop sitting there with not even like a register, but he's got like this like calculator that prints, those things, and a desk drawer with the cash boxes in this. I don't know if he's still like that. I'm not trying to say go.
I hope not. I hope he's updated to this century.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago, and that's where he was. And I literally, so like this Murcielago has like a little price tag on it. These Camachos didn't have it, and I'm pretty sure they were marked at like $9 or whatever. And he's like, how much were these? And I was like, I don't know. I think like 9 or something like that, 10. He's like, well, I was going to say 6. So let's do like $7.50 a piece.
All right. Got a deal.
I'm sitting on for 5 years, I guess. Yeah, go ahead. You probably didn't even know they were in there. So in part 2, guys, we kind of talk to the audience and we get some comments out of there. And if you're not on it already, check out the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook. That's where we do a lot of these kind of looking for suggestions. And obviously it's an extension of the show. So it's not your typical bourbon and cigar podcast in part 2. So we can kind of go through some of these things. We'll start if you don't mind. I mean, Glenn Heiss asked about aging bourbon. We'll stick with kind of a transitional topic here, is aging bourbon. And I don't know if he means, Glenn, I don't know if you're listening right now, but I don't know if he means aging it yourself. Like we had Brad Sibley on and Eric Baldridge, where they were taking some white mash from a local distillery in like a 5-gallon barrel, I think it was, and they were aging it themselves. Was that right?
They had 2-liter, 5-liter, and 20-liter.
Okay. So liter?
Yes.
Oh, wow. But so like, I don't know if he's talking about aging bourbon. I don't know if,
or if it's the distilleries that are aging it like this is this many years old.
I was just going to say is that sometimes I feel like some people will get caught up on the labels, on the details of stuff. And I thought that was going off of the end of part 1, one of the things we were talking about was the Camacho Broadleaf, and we were hung up on the marketing behind it, the name Broadleaf, what we know about broadleaf tobacco before this cigar, and people get caught up on it when you see 6-year on the bottle, like we're drinking tonight.
Yeah.
You look at products that have 10 years on it, and it's like sometimes people get caught up on that part of it, and they don't necessarily worry about the blind taste testing side of it. It's like, I don't drink anything that's under like 4 years. And it's like, well, this is a newer one that's like, bourbon's got to be aged at least 2 years. So it's like, it's like, well, yeah, but that's too young for me. And you're like, okay, well, if you had a blind taste test and I had a 2, aged at least 2 years, at a 4-year, a 10-year, and all that stuff, it's like, I'm curious. It's like you hate to not trying to embarrass someone, but it's like, oh, I really like, Glass B. Well, I got you. That's 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's you kind of sell yourself short sometimes, I think, with some of that stuff, is that if you're just caught up on what it says on the label, what other people say in reviews and stuff like that. I'm not against having stuff kind of guide you a bit on that. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you're not going to spend the money necessarily on a 2-year bottle or a bottle that someone, or a cigar or whatever it is that someone said they don't care for. Listen to a podcast like our part 1, and they're like, oh yeah, like Nate gave it a 7 and Steve gave it a 7.5. I'm not going to even bother with that. It's like, you might like it.
Still, yeah, it's true.
You haven't had it yet, like, and you're in a cigar shop or whatever, looking for something new, something to try.
Well, I think we touched on that a while back when we had the owners and founders of Echo Spirits here in Columbus, because 2 of their latest products were a blended bourbon and a barrel proof bourbon that on the front label, it says aged at least 2 years. Most companies, if they're producing something less than 4, don't even say that a lot of times, especially on the front label. They're not going to put that out there. They may put that on the back label, but they're not going to put it right up front. And as a retailer, I try to explain to customers, like, I know a lot of you are going to be kind of put off that this says aged at least 2 years because you get caught up on 2. The flavor profile on this, it drinks older than that. And that's where it's the experience of people like us. It's the experience of retailers who are actually buying the products and trying them themselves. Or, like with us at Carfania's, we have a bar. It's like, okay, if you're nervous about that, go to the bar, try a pour of it. They have it at the bar. See if you think it's actually worth spending the money on. I think when it comes to bourbon, anything that's more than 10 years, my boss said this, it tastes like you're pulling toothpicks out of your teeth, because it just becomes so oak heavy on the flavor profile.
It's an interesting expression there.
Well, he's an interesting guy. But some of the older bourbons just taste so oak heavy. They lose some of the sweetness, some of the caramel notes, some of the fruit notes, because they're spending so much time going in and out of the barrel staves. Scotch is a different thing. Their climate doesn't have as much change as ours does here in the Midwest, in Ohio, Kentucky. Definitely not as much as, say, Texas, where we've had some Texas whiskeys, bourbons that were 2 years old, but definitely drank like they were older than that because their climate's so drastically different. Scotch has to age that long because it doesn't have as much interaction deeper into those barrel staves.
Climate wise.
Yeah, because their climate.
Yeah.
Bourbon here in the U.S., especially in the Midwest, most people think all bourbon comes from Kentucky. It can come from any of the 50 states. You don't have to have that much age on it. Just because a bottle doesn't have an age statement on it, if it says Kentucky straight bourbon or Ohio straight bourbon or Iowa straight bourbon, whatever it is, that means it's at least 4 years, which means it's more than at least double what the minimum age requirement is. There are some great products out there in that 4 to 7 year range that you don't have to spend a whole lot of money on. Some of it is marketing. Some of the ones that sit there and say, hey, this is 7 years. This is 10 years. There's a bottle that's readily available on the shelves everywhere in Ohio that's got more age on it than Blanton's, and it's around the same proof, and it's 20 some bucks cheaper.
What's that bottle?
Russell's Reserve.
Yeah, there you go.
The Russell's Reserve 10 year, that's at minimum a blend of 10 or older year barrels. And they cut that down to 90 proof. Blanton's is 93 proof. You can spend $70 on a bottle of Blanton's in Ohio, 65 plus tax, or you can spend 43 plus tax.
Or you can not spend that money because you can't find a bottle of Blanton's in the state of Ohio.
Without waiting in line for 5 hours.
Or you can spend it on the Russell's Reserve.
Well, and that's
one of
the things I try and do with customers that come into the store. Customers that are looking for some of those highly allocated, limited release.
Sure.
Well, not even limited, just highly allocated products. Let me try and turn you on to something that's readily available on the shelf any day you go in there. That's going to have that same flavor profile or better for the same price or around the same price. Like the Russell's single barrel is also a 10 year and it's at a higher proof than Bland's because it's coming in at 110, whereas Bland's is 93, and it's the exact same price.
Well, I think, Mike, what do you think? You drink bourbon, but not a ton, right?
Not a ton.
But you're more on the cigar side of things, right?
Definitely on the cigar side.
So let me kind of equate what you're hearing from Nate and also what you hear from cigars. Do you worry about the age? Because cigars are the same way for a lot of people, is that, you hear things that like, oh, it's aged for this long. And then like some cigars are, once they're rolled, they sit for a year.
Yeah.
Like Liga Privada, when they first came out, it was all about they sat for a year after being rolled. It comes to mind like the Rocky Patel 60 year. He's got age on a lot of tobacco, including especially on the wrapper leaf. That's his big thing. But then the Rocky Patel, the RP 60, it's sat for 2 years before it's being released. Does that matter to you? That's where I think, Glenn, 4 hours ago, he commented on that. I don't know what he meant necessarily by that, but like, does that matter? Is it marketing? I mean, I think it does matter as far as what Nate, you were saying with that, where it's like, if it's in a barrel for so long, the whole thing about your tasting toothpicks is like, obviously it's going to take more and more characteristics of the barrel the longer it's in there. Obviously, on the bourbon side of it, the whiskey side of it, you're going to lose more of the product the longer it's in there. So it should come with more. Not only are you warehousing it, but you're losing product. Where from a cigar side, you have the liability of possibly losing product the longer it sits there, and you don't ship it out and get it away from you.
Yeah.
But does that matter to you, Mike? I mean, when you're like buying cigars, if I tell you this whole story, it's like, oh, it's 11-year-old wrapper leaf and this and that, and it's like, oh, it's sat for 2 more years, and do you care about that, or is it something that's cool?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
From the bourbon side, I don't have a lot of experience with that. I've had some bourbons like Bland's, for example, and this is just by pure luck in situations that I've been in. Someone said, yeah, I've had this bottle for this many years, that many years, and I've tasted this and tasted that. The only thing that, in my experience from a bourbon perspective, is the longer they've had it, I've noticed I taste more of the actual flavor versus like the spicy kick in the face. Like that's what I've noticed.
The longer they've had it, they like had it open.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what we were doing with
Yes.
this, with the batch 4 versus batch 3 here
Yes.
of the Watershed 6-year apple brandy.
And
Finished is that we noticed that it was obviously a little different, but it also
Right.
like I had that bottle open
yeah.
for a year.
Mm-hmm.
I will say from on the cigar side, it's the opposite. So one of the other brands that, other than Espinosa, I love LFDs.
Mhm.
And I remember this was almost about 2 years ago. I went to Byron in Schaumburg, Illinois,
Mhm.
and they have a room where there's a lot of aged cigars. And I think I told you about this. I got the factory pressed LFD that's been sitting since 2001. And so I was like, oh, this is really cool. I've never had an aged cigar. They're telling me it's going to be great. Awesome. Me, I like my cigars strong.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I noticed right away with that factory box press is the strength was like gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The flavor was unreal, but the strength was just gone.
Yeah, there are some cigars that age well, especially in the humidor if they're properly kept. And there are some that don't. So there's really no purpose in aging a mild cigar. It's mild already. All it's going to do is get milder. So there's no point really aging some of those. Some of the stronger, fuller bodied cigars, maybe something with a Maduro wrapper, those you can age to a point. And yes, they will lose a little bit of their strength. And that allows maybe the certain flavor notes to be enhanced when you smoke it because the nicotine has aged out of that tobacco a little bit. For example, some people I know love to age Padron 1926s or 1964 Maduros. They don't necessarily age the naturals. It's more the Maduro ones. They'll age those a little bit. That nicotine and strength will kind of dissipate a little bit over time. That flavor will also dissipate over time, but because the nicotine has dissipated, the flavor will seem more pronounced.
I think it changes, I mean, and again, we can move on from this here shortly, but it's like, I think, I've had the opportunity, well, first and foremost for me, it's like I have some of the cigars I picked up when I was traveling to Havana and the farms in Pino del Rio. It's like 2018 trip. I still have a handful of cigars. It's one of those things. I'm not trying to age them, but I have smoked one here or there, and I don't have many left, but those have held up very well, in my opinion. Like what you brought, like the Murcielago, right? From 2016, maybe 2017, whenever it came. It's been sitting. If it's been maintained, that's a fun thing for us that are like into that, is that like you smoke that along with a newer Robusto of that, what's being produced by AJ for Eric Espinosa right now. I had some friends that, sitting on some Liga Privadas, sitting on that. The wine game, which I'm not as familiar with, it's like you see that there's books out there that it's like, oh, if it's this year, it's prime in this year. And you're just like, how would you know that? And if you will pass that, the 20, like you said, a 2001 cigar, I'll take it to the other level of cigars where it's like when someone says, yeah, I was at this shop, it's down in Florida. And I mean, they had this back room, right? And they had these pre-embargo Cubans and they were expensive. And I've had this conversation with people that have actually purchased those cigars for a good deal of money. How was it? It's pretty good. I said, pretty subdued. Like, it wasn't like, had some flavor, but it was, yeah. How'd you know? It's been fucking sitting there for 50 years. Like, Jesus, like, like at least there's 70 years, whatever. It's like you sit something that long, that's even maintaining it, the integrity of the product of the materials in it, they just don't last. So you're selling that mystique. And I think that with Nate, you might know more. I don't know if you know as much about aged wines or like when it hits, but it's like, and I don't want to go down this whole rabbit hole of this, but it's just like, the aging of things, it has value until it doesn't, where it's then now you're just selling it as, it's like those scotches we were saying that, where it's like, oh yeah, this is the Macallan. What was the most expensive one that just sold not too long ago? Like 50 years?
Recently there was a Macallan, I think it was 64 years.
Just like silly amount.
And it
it's
sold
like
for
value-wise.
like 1.1 million.
you can't put a, like, that's what someone would bid on it, right? You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I mean, like from a business standpoint,
from a
you're like, well, how much did I lose in those 64 years of sitting there, and how much does it cost
Yeah.
to warehouse this barrel and to tend to it and
So
do all that
from a
stuff?
retail standpoint, like Macallan 25 in the state of Ohio is $27.50. If you double that age to 50 here, the retail on that is about 54 grand, somewhere in that ballpark.
Mm.
But yeah, the 64 year, that's more of a secondary buy.
You're buying it's collector, it's a rarity and all that stuff, right?
Like it's one of those, like you're buying that as an investment to be able to sell later in the future. The thing to remember is when it comes to spirits, whiskeys, whether it be bourbon or scotch, once it comes out of the barrel, it will cease to age.
Correct.
It's not going to change once it's in the bottle sealed
up.
It's not going to change.
Yeah.
You might taste some difference in a bottle that you've had in your cabinet for 5 years versus a brand new bottle. That could be just, the way, the grain yields were that day. That could be a difference of that. When it comes to wine, there are certain wines. Wine will continue to age even once it's put into a bottle. There are some wines that are designed to age longer than others. Like there's not many white wines out there that are going to age long. There are some very high-end wines that'll age in a bottle, for 10 years. There are certain red wines that you can age longer or shorter depending on the type of wine it is. Sunday, I had an opportunity to taste a couple of rather older bottles of wine.
Mm.
One was a Barolo, which comes from the Piedmont region of Italy, which is in the northwestern part of Italy.
You say Illinois there.
I almost did, yeah.
It's outside of Chicago. It's a beautiful region.
Yeah, no,
a lot of grapes.
So Barolo is one of those that if you were making a Barolo prior to the year 2000, in order for that wine to really hit its peak, 25, 30 years age on that bottle.
I feel like we just got snobby on this.
Now you can age that bottle a little bit less because production methods have gotten better. So we had a 2003 Barolo. The youngest Barolo I had ever tried prior to that was a 2015.
Okay.
So there was definitely a difference between those two types of bottles. Like that was a 2003. We currently sell that maker's 2021. So that's something that you could buy and age in your cellar, for the next 20 years.
Yeah. If
you wanted to do that. There was another one that was a 2005 Cabernet Sauvignon from California. If you bought that bottle now, it'd still be good. If you wanted to sit on it for 15 years, it's going to be great. Those wine will age like that because it'll continue to age in the bottle.
Correct. I get that. And you don't want to age too much. It's so some of the comments here before we move on here. It's interesting. Bobby Hirschman says most fine cigars don't age well and never try and age a Padron. Makes no sense. I've had some, that have sat a while. My whole thing is if you take care of it and it's from the cigar side of it for the people that will buy cigars and are like, well, all right, so I'm going to age this one for at least 6 months. You talk to the manufacturers. Yes, from a business stance, they want you to smoke it so you'll buy more, right? But on the other side of it, there was that age-old thing where going way back to like the Cuban side of it is that if you bought the dress box or you bought the Cuban wheel, there was two different strategies there. One was ready to smoke, one was not. And it's like now it's like when the manufacturer puts it out there, if it's a bad manufacturer or someone that's struggling and they just want to put out product, they're dealing with they're basically gambling with their own reputation at that point. But there's a reason that more recently, for those that are out there in the cigar world doing this, is if they're pumping it out, they're putting the reputation on the line if it's not ready to smoke. Most manufacturers that I know that I have connections with and relationships with, they will be putting out. The reason that some cigars were on back order for so long is because they're not going to put out a cigar that's not ready to be smoked. So yes, it might get better or you might like it longer like a longer age cigar, you might like it better than something like that. But truly, it's enjoy it. You know, it's just like with the whiskey, to your point, Nate, it doesn't age in the bottle. You're ready to go. Once you open it and you're going over to a friend's bar or whatever, and it's been sitting there a while, like we did tonight, it's been sitting for a year. That number 3 batch was really good. And it wasn't quite as like in your face as this batch number 4. But it's tough because you can't, unless you had a sealed bottle of the batch number 3 and a sealed bottle of number 4. We cracked them both tonight. And then we said, all right, we've got half a bottle, as close as we can get. October 18th, 2024, we're going to visit these and see how they aged. You can't compare it.
Yeah.
They're different products, but you can't, it's just, you can't compare a year-old open bottle that's maybe been oxidized a little bit, but you have the cork in it. You know what I mean? It's just, you just can't do it.
To that point, one of the things that always,
I don't want to go down this route. We can't talk about this whole part too.
But one of the things that intrigues me when it comes to when they do wine ratings, just like they do cigar ratings.
Mhm.
So they will rate some wines on a certain point. So, for example, I was talking about Barolos, which Barolos, 15, 20 years, that's when they're going to shine.
Here.
What?
I know you're making fun of me.
I'm not making
He
fun.
knows his stuff, though.
I know he
But-
does. Pass that bottle, so I
But
can-
like they'll judge, they will judge on points, say a 2018 Barolo has so many points. They're not rating that based on what it is now. They're rating it based on what they believe it's going to be in the future. If that makes any sense.
It makes sense. I get it. You're an expert. But you don't. You know what you know, but you cannot predict the future because there's.
No.
I can, as an outsider looking in, I bet you've messed up that prediction before.
Oh, I'm sure they
You
have.
said, "Oh, 5 years from now it's gonna be great." It's like unless you're doing it just like they do when they're aging whiskeys, right? And they're doing this or aging tobacco, and you're like, "I'm gonna try it at 3 years. I'm gonna try it 3 years and 6 months. I'm gonna try it at 4 years."
Kind of like
Do
the
all that
vertical
stuff.
series we recently did with Pinhook.
Right? But if you say, "You know what? I'm not gonna touch it for 5 years," it's like you don't know. You're gonna say, "Yeah, I was right." It's like, did you try it at 4 years? No, but 5 years was the number 1 spot. And it's like, what'd you predict 5 years ago? That this is the spot. Now you just try to be nice about this.
Nope,
but it's
go
like,
ahead.
No,
Come
it's
on.
like you have so much confidence in yourself as an expert that you're just gonna feed your own ego at that point.
Oh, absolutely. There is a lot of ego into that.
Because even if you say you were wrong, what would have been at 4 years? It still would have been wrong. I think it would have been better at 3 years. You're like, well, so you were wrong, but you're not being specific on how you were gonna be wrong, but you don't know how wrong you're. It's like no one knows unless you're actually cracking those bottles, and maybe they do that, right, with the wine, right? Maybe they do crack some at 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. But when you see those things where it's like, don't crack this before this year, but don't crack it after this year, I'm like. You guys know your stuff. I'm not going to question you, but I just don't get it.
I did have a customer.
This is
that
getting heated.
I had a customer that wanted to buy a bottle,
We need to move on.
and I had 2 vintages in the cabinet. One was a 2012, one was a 1995, and that customer elected to buy the 2012
Oh, I would too.
because they thought that the 95 was going to lose too much. And
All right.
when you're spending $1,200 on a bottle, like, yeah, that's something you're going to take into consideration.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna say my experience and what actually happened with this, but after all that, I feel like it's just gonna water everything down.
No, not at all.
No, I've smoked 2 of these now,
Are they good?
so kind of going back, the whole prediction versus what actually really happened with
Yeah.
this, because I can say this because this is my favorite cigar.
Murcielago.
Murcielago.
It's the cigar that got me into the industry, got me hooked. It's still my favorite to this day.
Maybe Steve and I will smoke that next instead of the Monte Cristo.
I don't want to take away the Monte Cristo. But I will say, I was curious with how old this was, what this is going to be like, just because I've smoked hundreds of the Murcielago.
Yeah.
And so the big things that I noticed right off the get-go, the strength, it wasn't as powerful as it normally is. The pepperiness it was there, but it wasn't like
Subdued.
smack you in the face.
Yeah.
but the flavor tasted way different than they typically do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if, like, for as old as this is, if the blend is slightly changed over the years or not, but I was able to taste different things in there that I never have before.
Real quick, and we're going to move on.
Yeah.
That being said, with cigars and everything else, you're dealing with crops, just like wines. You're dealing with like you see the years, right? So that's the thing. If it's a 2018 versus 2019, these are different crops of the products that are going into the bottle, right? Going into the cigar. So yes, you have different variables on that. The aging, they do their best to, especially with cigars, to have a consistent product, so that you as a consumer, if it's not a small batch or if it's not a limited release, that you buy a Murcielago today and you buy a Murcielago tomorrow or a year from now, you have a consistent product.
Yeah.
You sit on it for 5-6 years, you had a different crop going into that, but also they're trying to make it as consistent, but you can't put it against them if they're trying to tweak it here and there just a little bit to make it what they want it to be. But you also don't want to piss off the consumers by doing that. Yeah. We learned that from Michael Herklotz with the Nat Sherman turning into Ferio Tego. There was a blend that he even said, he's like, he always said it because he's a musician. If you played a track and you know you messed up at this one part of that song and you had the opportunity to re-record it the way you wanted to be re-recorded, would you play it the way that you played it the last time where you feel like you messed up, or would you have that opportunity and you use it to do it the way you wanted to do it? And that's what he did with this one blend. I'm not gonna say what it was unless we get him on the show and he says it, but they did tweak the blend from Nat Sherman to Ferio Tego, and he did it because that's the way he wanted that cigar to smoke, and he knew that it would be it would piss off some smokers of that blend. But he said, this is our opportunity. And that's where I think that the more you sit on something like that, there's a lot of variables in there. But yes, aging tobacco will do that.
I'm going to finish this one. I'll join you guys with this guy.
All right.
You know what? I'll be right back.
You got it. All right. So going on to the next topic, and I appreciate you guys listening. We got more and more audience members, which is great this hour. But like Bobby Crow says, watch the movie Sideways and you'll become an expert overnight. LOL. It's a good movie.
Well, so interesting. That had a dramatic effect on the wine industry.
It had to.
So much.
Merlot sales went down. Yeah,
so much so that psychologists actually analyzed that, and it's now called the sideways effect. So script writers and movie producers have to be careful about what they put into a film because it could have real world impact.
It's like Fight Club.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I think there were a lot of underground fight clubs after that.
But no, so for those that don't know, after that movie came out, like at the time, Merlot was the #1 selling wine in the United States. That took a drastic downturn because the main character, Paul Giamatti, said he wasn't going to drink any more fucking Merlot. Mm-hmm. But then gave a raving review on Pinot Noir, and Pinot Noir sales went up 176% after that movie.
Yeah, I believe it. All right. Let's see. What do we have on this? And I love the comments coming in. No, it said all the love.
Did they?
Yeah, they did, actually.
I don't think they did.
Let's see here. Go with mine. We can go
never
with
a dull moment here.
Oh, there really isn't. All right, Bobby Hirschman, who's listening right now, he says, seems like summer just ended, and before we know it, it's the holiday season. It's quickly approaching. Are we all prepared? He was talking about Christmas shopping the other day. Last week's episode, we did talk about like fall is here, and we talked about the seasons changing a lot. For me, it does seem like summer's just here, but I make the comment a lot. I think I said it last week, is that, being in like retail and dealing with customers and their attitude coming in the store and depending on the weather and all that stuff, it's like, in the Midwest, it's one of those things that it's like, yeah, okay, summer's over. Like for me, if you have family and all that stuff, it means that you're busy again because school's in session, kids are doing their stuff. You're no longer just, again, before 2020, after 2020, it slowly started slipping back in. It's like summer was like was almost like being kids again because no activities were happening in 2020, right? So it's like summer, everyone was off, right?
Mhm.
You're still working, but like it's like beautiful out, but it's like you're still doing that. Now it's slowly trickled back in, and it brings me back now to my childhood where it was like, yes, summer we were busy, but once you get to school's in session, especially if your kids are involved in stuff or you have hobbies or you play rec sports, whatever, everyone's busy. And I think that everyone says, oh, and, in the Midwest, when I was a kid, we had fall, we had the seasons. Now we don't have it anymore. And nowadays you have the climate change stuff talking about, and everything's being really polarized on that stuff. And it's like, I have people coming in and it's like, today was sunny. Well, the last several days, and it was like gray, and it's like, man, fall's here. Like, oh, like, man, winter's almost here and all stuff. And it's like, I wish we just had a good fall. It's like, this is it. Enjoy it.
Yep. And
then I have like my sister-in-law who she will be that one that posts on Facebook. It's so many days to Christmas and it's like August. And I'm just like, don't rush it. And I tell customers that just in conversation. I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, it's just starting to get, I'm just so busy. I got kids doing this. I'm running around doing this. And I just know that it's going to, be winter here soon. And I feel like when I'm a fall, it's like, this is it. Take a breath. This is fall.
Enjoy it.
It's 60 some degrees and it was sunny today. Yeah, but the forecast is looking like
50 to 60s. That's fall because soon it's going to be, single digits.
And we were talking about like next Wednesday doing this podcast. It's like forecasted to be like around 70. It's like this next is week? Fall in Ohio. Yeah, it'll change. It'll probably be 50, but whatever.
Okay.
But I mean, to Bobby Hirschman's comment here is that it's the holiday season is quickly approaching. Are we all prepared? No.
Well,
I think. What do you mean by prepared?
Well, I think one of the things that gets, one of the things that tricks us up or trips us up, there's not a whole lot of summer holidays. So early on in spring and in May, we have Memorial Day. And then we have July 4th, so that's more than a month after Memorial Day. And then it's not till September that we have another holiday in Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some, so the holidays are kind of spaced out in the middle of the year during summertime. They're kind of spaced out. Once you hit the fall, it's Halloween. And then less than 4 weeks later, you have Thanksgiving. And then a month later, you have Christmas. And then 6 days later, you have New Year. Like, when it comes to the fall and beginning of wintertime, like it's bang, 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 getting,
I think it's intentional.
Trying to spend time with family during, those colder months. During the middle of the summer, there's not a whole lot of holidays going on.
There are, if you pay attention, especially in the U.S.
Well, I mean, we're kind of front loaded and back loaded. There's not a whole lot necessarily going on in the middle of the year. We have July 4th, but actual holidays that companies, government holidays that people get days off and stuff like that, or people that do barbecues and whatnot. You have Memorial Day that kind of starts it, pools open around then. Then you have July 4th and then pools close Labor Day.
How many people are confused that you guys know that Memorial Day and Labor Day?
Confuse the two?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people do get confused. People get confused all the time. It's very common.
Very common. Very common.
Probably, they probably mix those two up.
Yeah.
Just, don't wear white after. Well, which one do I stop wearing white after?
Do you think that in the U.S., the reason that a lot of this happened was not necessarily just historical, but because when the weather is nice, you don't necessarily need reason to have these memorable dates?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good idea to think about.
I'm just saying because, in the weather.
Well, because even on the news tonight, and this is something that we've talked about for years, on the news tonight, they had a whole segment of talking about seasonal depression with it getting colder and the sun setting earlier. Tonight, the sun was setting as I was driving to Steve's house, whereas a couple months ago, I mean, the sun was setting, almost by the time we finished the podcast.
People aren't getting enough sunlight. I'm a very big believer in this whole seasonal depression
You are.
is because people don't spend enough time outside during the colder months, which keeps them inside. You're not getting your vitamin D. You're not getting the fresh air as much. There's also one of the reasons why it's sick season, flu season, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
You think
It's
because of seasonal depression, people get sick?
not because of that. I mean, my understanding is the real reason people get sick is because they're indoors so much, they're contained, and you're not getting enough air outside. You're not being outside enough to where everyone's bacteria, everything is combined in enclosed spaces where it's spreading a lot faster.
Yeah, that's probably true.
If that makes sense, rather than the cold itself is not going to make you sick. It's you being around tons of people indoors because not enough people are outside. So the chances of contracting something that somebody has rises and it spreads way faster.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
But if you're not getting enough vitamin D from the sunlight, which most people do during the summer, if you're spending time outside,
sure,
you're not getting any more. So that naturally is going to suppress your immune system. It's going to do a whole bunch of things to you to where this whole seasonal depression, well, of course, you're stuck inside most of the time. You're not spending enough time outside.
Yeah. Yeah, I think,
Well,
I agree with that.
Ray Cheshire brought up an interesting comment. Weak people suffer from seasonal depression.
I'm gonna agree with him. I'm sorry.
I see it there, but of course, my feed. Oh, there. No.
Swipe and swipe.
Maybe we're not friends anymore on Facebook. I don't know. I would agree with that. I think there is some. I don't know. I can't source any of the science behind that, but it's like, yeah, absolutely. If you're indoors and you're around people and you're not outdoors, fresh air and all that stuff, obviously, if you're sneezing and stuff like that outdoors, it's not going to hit you like you will if you're indoors. I think this seasonal depression, and that's where my topic that I suggested that if we didn't have any feedback was what we're going to probably try to talk about if it's just Nate and I on here, is that about boredom. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's like, yes, there is a part of it that you do get sick. I think that there's also a little bit of the stupidity about people that it's like, 50 degrees in October, November feels a hell of a lot different than 50 degrees in April.
Oh, yes, it does.
So, people will not take care of themselves as the temperatures, the conditions are changing. And so you do this where you're shocking your body and you're like still wearing shorts too long, or you're wearing shorts too early, and you're not taking care of yourself. And it is a little bit, I think, depressing sometimes. Some people like it, but if you have to bundle up just to walk outside, to
go to the mailbox,
walk your dog, whatever it might be, you know what I mean? Like, it's more of a hassle. I think that's just like a practical side of it. If it's like, summertime, you can go outside. You're like, well, I'll just throw a t-shirt and shorts on, maybe some sandals, whatever. Let's go. We got it. And it's like, as we get into the wintertime, as it gets colder, you're like, all right, which jacket am I going to wear? You know what I mean? Like, am I ready? Do I need to, I gotta have an umbrella. I gotta have my boots, but if it's not raining, I'll have my shoes with me. I'm gonna have like my long johns on. But if I get too hot, it's like, these are first world problems here.
Very first world.
But it's like,
very first world.
I gotta do more laundry. I gotta make sure that I got the right thing. I watched the forecast, but then they were wrong. And then it's like, it didn't rain at all. It didn't snow at all. And here I am all bundled up in a ski suit just to go to work. Yeah. It's like, well, then that's a lot too.
Make it more complicated than it used to be.
Yeah.
Like, we get those customers that all year long, they're wearing shorts. The only difference between summer and winter is t-shirt versus hoodie.
Whatever is that?
I'll be honest.
And then they're sick all year.
Most of the winter time, I will avoid wearing a jacket as much as possible. If I'm going to a store, if I'm going somewhere else, if I am not spending more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes outside, I will not bring a jacket.
Like out of principle?
Yeah. It's a way, to me, it's a waste of time. I don't want to bring it inside anywhere, drag it around, have to put it somewhere, have to remember it. I would rather if I'm just walking from my car into somewhere and that's about the most I'm doing, I'm not going to bring a jacket. It's a hassle for me. It makes life way more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Wait, what does that say?
That was
one of our YouTube listeners.
Texas Taurus. Man, you guys are still going? Yeah, nice.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
How many years have you guys been doing this?
5.5.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Late February is when we'll hit the 6-year mark.
Seasonal depression, yeah, it's a thing. I mean, it absolutely is, and there is some of that behind it. Be vitamin D, taking care of you, doing the zinc thing.
That's
all
just
that stuff.
from like a
your body
biologist.
gets, yeah. I mean, it's also, it's you wake up, and I'm thankful because as it doesn't get as light early. My dog Tony doesn't get up as early, which I love that. Like this morning, somehow normally he's up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. When in the summertime, because I don't have I just have blinds in my bedroom or whatever, and he sleeps on top of the covers. He'll wake up, want to go outside, eat maybe, and then he comes back to bed, goes under the covers. Well, this morning it was different, where it was kind of getting to this point where he got up, he started moving around, he looked at me, I was like, "Hey man, you want to get on the covers?" Went on the covers about 7:30.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, I get up and he's still on the covers next to Kristen. So her alarm goes off at 7:40 or whatever, you know what I mean? She's usually up before that too, but it's I got up, walked out, went to the bathroom, came back, and he's still under the covers. I'm like, this is perfect. That's why I don't feed him right away, because I don't want the food to wake him up. I just want him to wake up with so yeah, hopefully we're in for a good winter. These are wins for me here, where it's not up at 5:30 and it's all right, buddy. And then of course he sleeps all day when I'm doing my thing. So I'm trying to get a compromise here.
So one of the reasons probably my biggest reason that I love fall weather is because I get the best sleep of my life. So
windows open?
Oh, dude. So
you're a windows open guy?
So because I know we mentioned in the podcast before, my son's in the NICU still and all that kind of stuff. Marissa stays at the hospital. I stay at home.
She called earlier, by the way. Did you see that?
She did?
She was calling, yeah.
I did not notice that.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. I'll call her back.
Okay. I'll text her while we're talking.
Yeah. So I sleep with the windows open. So, and I also think, kind of to your point, right? I don't think it's just for people. I think it's animals in general and people all across the board. To get the best quality sleep when it comes to deeper sleep, better quality sleep, you should actually be sleeping between 66 and 68 degrees in the room.
That's where I keep my thermostat at.
Right. So here's the thing. You don't have to do that in the fall. You can just open up the windows. Even if it gets down to 45, 50 degrees outside.
If you have allergies though, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, if you're kind of SOL, if you're one of those individuals.
I'm a suburban,
Dude, I've been getting.
I tried to do. There were a couple days earlier in the summer that we had the windows open because more fresh air. I even put a box fan in the window with a filter, with a furnace filter taped to the box fan in the window.
What?
Oh yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yep. Okay. And I was still so stuffy from all the allergens.
I'm waking up like that. Yeah.
That I was like, this was a good idea because I slept, colder, slept better, but then I'm just stuffy and sneezing all day long. Gotta close the fucking windows.
Yeah. Okay,
when it gets colder, I can open those windows back up because the allergens aren't in the air. But
then it gets really dry.
Well, we sleep with a humidifier all year round. We have a cold humidifier and a hot humidifier, depending on time of season.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is
because there was one time not too long ago where I was
I think a lot of our listeners can relate, but
I was waking up with a seriously dry and scratchy throat, and I was like, "Man, what the fuck is going on? Why do I feel like I'm getting sick?"
Too many cigars and whiskey,
do you sleep
man.
with your mouth open though?
It turns out my wife turned off the humidifier for 2 straight days, and I was like, "Well,
you sleep on your back?
No,
side, stomach.
See,
that's not great for you, man. Side's apparently the best for you.
I try to sleep on my side.
That's what and
my shoulder doesn't like it.
Yeah, I know. Mine either. It's just getting old. But on your back, I feel like that's when you start snoring because everything's relaxed, and that's at least me. I don't know. My stomach,
Jess will snore no matter what position.
All right. Let's not start a war here.
Let's not start a holy war.
It's like my 5-year-old daughter. She just had surgery a little over a month ago to help prevent her tonsils were literally so overgrown. Like if she opens up her mouth, you could hardly even see down.
Jeez.
It was to help. One of the reasons to help her sleep quality. And even just like the other night, I woke up like just in the middle of the night, and I could hear her. Her doors closed down the hallway, and I could still hear her. She's still snoring.
5-year-old.
5-year-old.
Wow.
I can hear Jess from the other level of the house.
Q Jess texting you. So building off of that, I had a suggestion on this. It was, what about dealing with boredom? Do you guys ever feel bored with something and don't know why? And honestly, that was actually fueled. That was, again, building off of this to go into that a little bit more, is that boredom. I think, you were talking about, Mike, about like seasonal depression. It's like, I feel as though there is a link to that part of it. This is obviously just me talking, right? This is just my personal opinion, is I think that part of seasonal depression is in when the weather's nice, when it's light out a lot, you have time to, if you take the opportunity, you can do more stuff outside. You can enjoy hobbies. You can go out. It's more enjoyable to again, first world, like go shopping or go on a walk. You can go on a hike. You can, if you have sports or whatever, like you can do more stuff. You can throw on, like I said, like going into like how you're dressing, throw on a less clothing and just be able to just go roll the windows down in your car. You can do, it's just so much there that you have the availability. Obviously some people are bored or depressed during the summer, but when it gets down to like the going into the fall, winter and everything else, it's just like, it's getting dark earlier. We're talking about, it's like, I don't know. Is there a tie in there, like with boredom? And this can be anything, right? It's you, like when you're in a rut, if it's something that you are dealing with your job or whatever, it's like you do something long enough. It's just, sometimes you get bored.
It's that lack of stimulus.
And
Lost your purpose, maybe? Because if you
I
think
wouldn't say lost your purpose. It's just during the summertime, there's more things to stimulate you. Being outside, different noises, different things to experience if you are outside, because there's only so many things you're going to experience inside your house. Go outside, you're going to hear different things. You're going to feel different things: the warmth, the sun, the wind, birds, other parts of nature. You're going to experience all those things during the summertime when you are outside. During the wintertime,
it's up to you.
During the wintertime,
Who's got
some of
that
those
one?
things are more dormant. And so there's not as much exposure to those stimuli. So there's less things to actually stimulate you. So what you do have just becomes dull. And so that's one of the things, that's one of the reasons why I think when it does get colder and we feel that we're inside more, because we don't want to sit outside and have to bundle up in order to go sit outside. We don't want to go through that effort.
That's got to be part
But
of
that's
it.
and that's also why people, during the colder time of year, they'll start watching. I believe they'll start watching more things on TV, is because they're searching for that stimulus. They're searching for something to make them feel one way or the other. Usually, something to make them feel excited, something to get them going. During the summertime, there's a lot of things that'll get you excited and get you going. During the wintertime, not as much. And I think that just kind of leads into part of, that seasonal depression aspect, is there's not as much to stimulate us.
I think it's not as much if you choose not to let that, because I think there, even during the colder months, I don't know, I feel that not enough people are willing to take the step forward to experience the cold and what the cold has to offer, just because it feels uncomfortable, especially if you've been in the warmer weather, your body's adjusting to it. Kind of like to your point, how 50 degrees feels different in April versus October. When that 50-degree weather comes out, people are popping. They got their flip-flops on, they're in their tank tops. But you do that in the fall? No, it's the other way around. They're putting on hoodies.
Yeah.
They're bundling up.
Yeah.
There's a lot that the cold has to offer, but most people won't do it because they don't want to deal with the cold. They don't want to deal with that uncomfortability, which the more you do it, the more your body's going to adjust to it. You're going to get more used to it, and it's going to be easier the more and more you experience it. There's a lot that the cold has to offer, and I only say cold because the winter, fall, everything.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, I went to one of the things I look forward to, like the pumpkin patches and
Yeah.
those types of places where they got bonfires going. There's a lot of cool like pumpkin activities, and all that type of stuff. Like there's so much to offer if you just go and do it. Like if you want to be outside, sure, you might have to bundle up, but you can still experience it. You can still be outside. And to tell you the truth too, even though it's cloudy, you're still getting like call it the vitamin D. Like the UV rays are still there.
UV rays will make your body actually produce vitamin D is how that works, right? So that's like the science behind that. I was actually, again, taking it back to the podcast, what we do here is so on Monday, I was at the liquor store. And I walked in, I was just going to buy like an everyday drink or whatever. They had Heaven Hill bottle and bond there. And so I was like, well, I guess I got to buy that. That's all I bought, whatever. But as I was waiting to check out, a guy he walked in and he asked the gentleman behind the counter, he's like, oh, yeah, do you have eggnog in here? He's like, no. This is at a grocery store too, Kroger.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, if we do, it's probably out with like the wine and
dairy.
The mixers and then, or dairy maybe, but like, like the mixers, like the margarita mixers and shit like that. You know what I mean? And the guy's like, oh, okay. And I was next and I was like, is it that season already? And the guy's like, I guess. I mean, people are getting ready, I guess. It's like, it's October, not even Halloween yet. This guy's looking for eggnog just to make sure he's got it. I don't know if there's going to be a shortage on eggnog and this guy knew something.
You got to get the Oberweis eggnog. Sorry.
What is it?
Oberweis.
Oberweis?
Do you think I have Oberweis?
Oberweis? I don't know. I'm not an eggnog guy.
I'm not an
eggnog guy. I was using
guy.
it as a metaphor. I don't know.
Comes in the glass bottles. They have like the milk.
Again, not an eggnog guy. I don't know. Educate our guests. I'm not the one to.
I don't do like sugar of like any kind. Like if I have even the stuff that I enjoy that's sugar, I know at this point, like if I have it, I'm going to pay for it for the next 2 or 3 days. Like for example, over the weekend I went to because like I said, I live in Indiana now, but I'm from Chicago, so we went to a new pumpkin patch, and I'm a sucker for like the apple cider donuts.
Apple cider anything, right?
Dude, apple cider. I had 2 apple cider donuts and it had like a hamburger. I was done.
I think I'm going to blame the hamburger.
No.
Oh, okay.
No way. I mean, dude, 2 donuts, I'm done. Like the rest of the day, I just felt like my elbows were hurting, my shoulders
passed
were hurting.
Out on the way home.
Dude, I was a complete wreck, but it tasted so good.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's worth it, right?
Like I say, I'm not as old as either one of you two are, but
I don't know if I say it like that, but
no. I don't mean
how old are you?
36.
Okay, yeah.
I'm like,
what are you, 38?
39.
39. That's not that.
Yeah.
I'll be 40 this year.
Like
usually how it works. Hopefully,
my food sensitivity has gotten. Maybe it's because I've eaten so clean for so long that like whenever I do have like sugar and stuff like that, my body's like, "What are you doing?" But I that's one of the things I look forward to with the colder months is like everything apple cider comes out, and I love apple cider everything.
Dude, I think that's a big part of it. Like I was talking about like being like bored and stuff like that. Sometimes people just get stuck in their own way. That's my whole thing. Job becomes a job, relationships becomes a relationship, your diet becomes like whatever your nutrition plan is. Like we talk about that when you're on the podcast, it's like your exercise is like, if you keep doing the same thing, it's up to you to really realize why you're doing it. Yep. And that's the reminder there is that when things become mundane or you're bored, it's like, and you don't know why, I would venture to guess that most of the time is that you stopped being excited about it and you're not asking yourself why you're not excited about it.
Is it exciting or you're not challenging yourself?
Both.
And you think some people,
I think it's both.
A lot of people assume challenge with having to do something that's actually hard, which not always the case.
I don't think it's hard or difficult. I think it's like when you start a new job, it's all new and you're learning, you're trying to do your best thing. When you're in a new relationship or whatever, it's like you're trying to present your best self, you're trying to impress the other person and all that stuff. When you're trying to start a new diet, you're trying to start a new exercise plan, you're trying to reach a goal, whether it be financially or otherwise, you're in it. You're like this, you created it, you're getting into it, you're learning, right? Once you get in it and you're really seeing that you're making strides, you're still excited. when you are still hitting those strides, but they're not new anymore, sometimes I think boredom comes from that. I think that's where people get themselves in danger as far as they let things go on their own side of things, where they just are just waking up, nothing's new, nothing's exciting. And I think that's where I brought that into it is, you know, and then you compound that with the seasons changing, or something doesn't go your way. Now all of a sudden it's like things have been going well and what you wanted is happening, but you're not necessarily setting yourself up for the next goal if there is one. And so now you hit your goal, you know, you got the job, it's going well, you're in a great healthy relationship, you're going to the gym all the time, you're eating healthy, and then it's like, well, what day is it? Is it Saturday? Is it Monday? It's just things are going by, and then you look at it like Nate's saying, like, I'm gonna be 40 this year. It's like if 39's been a good year and you're making some big strides and all that stuff, you should be excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes people get bored with the same routine. I think people get bored with, it's like you brought up, I think, Nate, when people like in the wintertime, they're like, when they're watching more TV, it's like nowadays, if you start a new show and you're binge watching it, remember like when you started like season 1 of a show, this sounds so stupid in the big picture. Season 1, you start watching a show and you're in it. Right? No, so
I've recently done that.
Netflix, Hulu, whatever it is. Like, this is not the day and age. It's like the way that it got you through 6 to 8 months is because you had to wait a week to watch the next episode. Now you, in a matter of 7 days, you're on season 3, maybe season 4 or something. You're like, it's not what it was. Not 4 years ago.
It's
8 days ago. It's not what it was. It's like we're just you're bored because you're like, man, this was so exciting because I'm learning the characters. I'm like, oh, I don't like that guy. I'm rooting for this guy. And all of a sudden, season 4, they're just like, we don't know what to write anymore. So it's like you're living through the past of what they're doing, and you're like, man, this.
So
this is boring. This was exciting. I was like, dude, that was last Tuesday you started this show.
So they're literally there was a show that was on Netflix. It was a Netflix original where I watched the whole first season, and then the second season came out and I watched the first couple episodes. I'm like, okay, you got like the first 5 minutes are entertaining, and then like the last 10 minutes pertain to what the hell's going on. The 30 to 40 minutes in between is just a bunch of filler. I literally would just sit there and watch like the last 10 minutes of every episode and then watch the entire season finale for the
I think
show.
it's a metaphor for what I'm talking about being bored in life. Sometimes when things, your day-to-day is that normal and everything else, you're like, no, it's good. There's nothing new happening.
2 weeks ago, I started watching the show, and like it's already getting to that point where the episodes start to get predictable.
Yeah.
Like
I
you kind of
again, I think this is a parallel to life. I mean, I think you need to be the writer a little bit more. Like, this is what I'm saying, like being bored in life. And we were joking about, Nate, you and I, about like when I mentioned that and like what I thought it might, like, no, things are good in my life because between me right now, my family, with Kristen, like, we are the writers, and I feel like we don't have the boredom right now because we are making an effort to make sure we're not just trying to fulfill a viewership of a show or trying to make sure that people around us that are looking in us, like social media, or when people talk to you like, hey, how's everything going? Man, I tell you what, as many times as I ask customers coming in the shop and I'm like, hey, how are you today? He's like, I'm here. Yeah, is that good? Is this your highlight? Is it like you're just here because this is the next step of the day? You wanted a cigar? You like, I don't always dive into it, but that's what's going through my mind. Is like, is your life shit right now? This is your highlight? Is this like what? When you comment, it's like, well, I can't wait for the weekend. I'm like, is it a bad week? Is it a good week? Are you tired? Did you not sleep last night? Like, is your family not going well? Is like health bad? Like, what's going on here? But like those comments, when I think of that, like when I'm saying like boredom and stuff like that, it's like, do we let ourselves think that we're bored and it's just another day? until it piles up to a point that you're like, I need to do something. And all of a sudden it's like you kind of put yourself in that situation because you're not allowing yourself to enjoy, whether it be summer, fall, winter, whatever else, you know what I mean? And all you're looking forward to. I had a job, my last career, where it's like I looked forward to the lunch break.
Ooh.
I looked forward to 5 o'clock, which then turned into 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Those types of positions I feel like we get in. And looking back at those days where it was like, now if I was in that position at that point, and I knew what I know now then, I'd handle it differently.
Mhm.
And I think that I do handle things differently now because of what I've learned about that. I don't want to let myself get as bored as I was at times because I just took some things for granted. And sometimes I was just like, yeah, it's just another day, man. My alarm went off. I got to go into work. I got to do this. It's the same old thing. And I was doing that career in different capacities, different positions, but it was the same career. Every time I got bored, I did luckily get a promotion or I got a different position.
Mhm.
And so there's new challenges. And that's where it's like, now I look at it as like, you got to battle that. I think that's why I brought up that topic, is because I think that boredom a lot of the times I think is self-inflicted as opposed to the outside factors bringing you down or sedating you to everyday life. I feel like you gave yourself challenges. You got to the point, you got the job, you got the girl, you got the whatever it might be. You got the next benchmark, you got the white picket fence, whatever it might be. Those are exciting moments. You're in that position that long. It doesn't mean you're always looking for the next best thing, but it's the appreciation for it. It's getting out and enjoying. Why did you want that? Reminding yourself why you wanted that. That's the thing that I work at, and I'm not always good at it. I think a lot of people don't even work at it. And so when things are going well, they literally have no stimulus, like you were talking about, Nate, until something goes bad. And now all of a sudden you're forced to react. But when things are going well, it's equated to being bored in life because you haven't actually appreciated it. You're not continuing to put effort in because it's already there. And it's like the only reason you're going to appreciate that is because you lost it. That's the problem.
That's a problem.
And I think that's something that I have worked at, and where I'm at in my life right now, it's work. People talk about, careers, jobs, relationships, successful relationships. It's work, right? That's what you hear all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Jobs. You get the job you want to continue being happy and also successful. It's work.
Well, and you and I, Steve, our primary jobs are retail.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us, yours being cigars, mine primarily being wine and spirits, even though there's a little bit of cigar aspect in my primary and my secondary job. We get those customers that come in and you ask them, hey, is there anything I can help you find? Whether it be cigar, wine, spirit, whatever. You'll get some customers like, oh, I'm just looking around. Like, all right. That person needs no help from me whatsoever. They're going to just look around. They're going to find what they want, and they're either going to tell me what they want, and I got to go get it, or they're going to grab the bottle or the cigar of what they want, and all I got to do is ring them out. There's not a lot of stimulus with that because you don't have to do anything. That customer's doing all the work themselves. But what makes the job exciting and actually provides stimulus to the day is when you get that customer that starts asking questions. It's like, well, you know what? I don't know a lot. I don't necessarily know what I'm looking for. I like these things, but I'm looking for this. And you get to actually use your education and your experience to point them in the right direction and help them find a product. Because that's one of the main reasons why you're there in that role. If someone comes in, to Carfagna's and is like, and I'm like, hey, is there anything I can help you find? Actually, I'm just going to grab a bottle of this. Like, okay, let me know if you have any questions. And that's it. They grab their bottle. I ring them out. That's it. There's no stimulation with that whatsoever. But when I personally have that customer is like, I don't know a whole lot about this. I'm looking for something. I'm looking for a gift. that's when I get the opportunity to start asking questions, find out what they like, what they don't like, and help point them to a certain product, both whether it be wine or whether it be cigars at the Tinderbox. Like that's when I feel like I'm useful, is to help them find something that they're looking for, something that's going to, be the right pick for that particular situation. And that is what provides me that opportunity to feel like I'm doing something that's worthwhile. I'm providing something to the customer. If Tinderbox is not a walk-in humidor, customers can't just walk in and grab their own cigars. We got to go back and grab it for them. So when you have that customer's like, hey, can I get 2 of these? Yep, sure. Now I just feel like an errand boy. I'm going back, grabbing the cigars, and bringing them out. All right. But when the customer starts asking you questions, is that not when you feel like that's when you're best at your job? That gives you a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment at your job.
So yeah, it does. I mean, that's a given. That's that stimulus from something new, right? But I think those one of the things that this hopefully can relate to a lot of people. So I'll say this in two steps here. There are people that literally don't want any help in that regard, right? These are the same friends that want to tell you what they're feeling, but they don't want to hear your advice. Those are those people, right? So these are like I'm talking about like
those are my favorite. Those are my favorite people.
Those are your favorite people. No, I'm saying
there's a reason why, but yeah.
All right. Well, you can follow up this, but I'm looking at it as like for you, Nate, talking about that is that sometimes if that's the boredom level that I'm talking about. That's the complacent thing. It's like if I'm just I'm working, in a sense, you can say this. I have to be there. No, you don't. You like not only do you not have to be there, your employer, if you don't own the shop or you don't own the business, they don't have to have you there. This is an agreed upon thing, and they hired you for a reason. And as you get into that longer, if someone's like, I just want to look around, yeah, go ahead, browse away, and let me know if you have any questions. Now I can, if I'm feeling good that day or whatever, if I'm stimulated, right, and I take that almost not as a challenge, but I am enthusiastic about what I'm doing. That's the difference. I've been in retail shops that literally it's like I ask for help and you can't even get it, right? So that's the difference. But if someone like, yeah, I'm gonna get 2 of these cigars here. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let me grab them. Walk up to the register. I'm like, oh, so you like Murciélagos by Espinosa? You smoked a lot of Espinosa stuff? Start having a conversation, right? Like San Andreas, oh, that Murciélago. You know, another one I really like is X. This cigar. Have you ever had that? And I won't even push it on them, but I'll say something like, like next time
you come in,
if you're looking for something new, I gotta tell you, like this is one. A lot of times I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Sometimes you're like, give me one of those. Yeah. So the business wins. They might hopefully win. And now all of a sudden, what you were talking about, where you feel valuable, where you didn't feel necessarily valuable before that, you've had that conversation. Same thing happened just recently on a personal level. Is I had a friend and a customer where he's about to celebrate another wedding anniversary. They've been together for a long time and all that stuff. And, he said, I saw on Facebook some of my pictures and he's like, hey, I saw you're just on vacation. Where were you at? And I was like, oh man, I was down at Haven, I was in Cancun. A lot of people like frown upon. It's not as exotic as some places, but like, Chris and I love it. We love this room. We love this. Like the room made it. Like this resort was amazing. He's like, oh, that sounds great. She wants to do this, but we're also talking about maybe a resort. A week later, today, he came back in. He's like, yeah. So because I sent him a link, and he's like, yeah, send me that. Like, because he's like, make it sound really good. It's like, dude, we should have paid twice as much to have this room that we had, but it was just so great. Came in today. He's like, yeah. So just so you know, we looked it over. We're really looking at that resort. This is on a personal level now. Yeah. It is a customer / friend, but it's like,
but you're not making anything from it.
I'm not, but it's like you're sharing that. You're excited about it. And it's like someone says like, oh yeah, my wife and I are looking for something to do, for our anniversary. It's like, I just was like, oh man, we had a great time. He's like, yeah, I saw that. And that's how that conversation happened. It's being engaged. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're bored about it, when people say like, hey, how was Mexico? I'm like, oh, it's good. Oh, good. I'm glad you had a good time. Or I can be like, I'm not going to like throw it in their face. Like, oh, let me show you pictures and all that stuff. But when they start asking questions like, oh man, this, you're engaged in conversation and relationships and experiences and these interactions with people.
But when you do that,
It's
there's an
so
authenticity to that.
because you're putting yourself out there.
Well, yeah, when whether you're selling a resort or you're selling a cigar or whatever it is, like if you put forth an authenticity,
Yeah.
it shows that customer that you actually believe what you're saying. Like you're not just recommending something to get a sale.
But there's so many people that like, again, this is not like I changed the world, but some people don't want to like talk about it, but it's like, again, when I ask a customer, how you doing today? Oh, I'm here. How are you? And it's only like, again, it's all timing, right? It's like I could say my hobbies, like a lot of my customers and friends know that I play rec softball. We're not even good anymore. We just do it. You know what I mean? It's a way to get together. But over the last like week or so, or like leading up to it, it's like I had a vacation. It's not like the most, like I'm not like going on safari in Africa here and saving, like visiting like a missionary trip here and saving third world country kids. It's like, no, we went to an all-inclusive and we drank and ate and we sat in the sun. But having that conversation, it was amazing. Thank you, Kristen, for setting that up and all that stuff. But it was one of those things that conversation, some people might take it wrong, but I just like say it in conversation, like, oh, yeah, not good. What have you been up to? Like, what's new? I was like, oh, I just got back from Mexico. Just had a great room. I'm not going to say this 6 months from now, but it's like right now, that's conversation. And all of a sudden, you see the interaction. You see that transpire to a point that like people are like, oh, yeah, like that sounds great. And then this is one thing that I always see is that when I talk about something like that, or if I say, yeah, last night I played softball, it was like great. Like I'm hurting today. That's why I'm like limping because I'm an old man playing softball or whatever. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I went somewhere on a trip. I need to do that again. Oh yeah. I used to play basketball. It's like, oh yeah. Like that's, like, do you play anymore? No, I don't play anymore. It's like, why not? Well, I just don't do it anymore. It's like, you ever think about it? Like you just start having conversations with people. And those are, I think, the conversations sometimes you have to have with yourself when you're in that rut. You feel bored and all that stuff. It's like, that's where I put that as like, do you ever think about why you're bored? And sometimes there are things in life that I think take precedence that you are put yourself in the backseat for a reason. Mike, what you've been going through with your family and with your son, all that stuff. It's like, you can't, I'm not going to tell Mike like, man, I had this great, it was adults only, we had this great swim out room and he's going to be happy for me. But I'm like, you should do it. It's like, I don't expect Mike to like with your, with your son being in NICU and your family and you're like, but you can take that and be like, you know what? When he gets out of that, when we get in this place, like I want to make sure I want to do a vacation or I want to take a trip or I want to, take a weekend and just have some home life, like a staycation, something. I am not living this like really inspirational life, but it's just the interactions I have with people. I've had to work on it. And there are plenty of days on my day off, like especially Mondays when no one else is off and I'm off, that I don't do shit, man. My life is not exciting.
That's okay.
It's
that's
one of those
what makes
things.
You
it's
happy.
like, how was your weekend? I was like, well, so I should have mowed my lawn on Monday because the weather was nice. I ordered some DoorDash and I watched 4 episodes of.
There's nothing.
Tell you what.
You know what? You could
paper.
Now reverse that for a second.
Yeah.
You can also say too, you know what? My weekend was great. My week, or was it Monday? You said
Yeah,
my Monday was great. I was able to stay home.
Yeah.
I didn't do much of anything. I had DoorDash. Like, if it's something that genuinely makes you happy, makes you feel fulfilled, like it's no one's place to judge anyone and what makes them happy. Like if they're happy
It's
about
how you
it,
present it.
You're gonna present it that way. If you're unhappy, you're gonna present it that way. And if you're presenting it that way, there's something intuitively within you that you're not listening to, which is making you show up that way.
That's right.
There are some people in this world that like, let's just put it this way. I know this is maybe a cheesy example, but like there's this thing called Twitch, right? Where like people literally just love the video game. They love to stream it. The level of enthusiasm these people have, it's what makes them feel fulfilled and great in life. And like, that's what makes them happy. That's okay. That's not what I'm going to do.
No.
But you know what? Like, in the same kind of to your point, you tell me about the whole trip about, you know, hey, we just went on this great cruise or whatever it was, this adults only trip. Like I'm genuinely happy for people who are
Sure.
happy. Like regardless if there's something I want to do, and if I can't do it, like I'm not going to sit and go, man, I wish I could do this. I'm so like, no, like be happy for other people's successes, be happy for other people's happiness. Like I think that's a good way. I don't know. I'm just maybe it's just me how I'm wired.
I think you framed it like you that's the thing. Sometimes people sell themselves short. I think that you've worked at life with this. You know what I mean? You've gone through your ups and downs, and again, you've dealt with those days of boredom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you feel like this is just another day. Like I got to do this again. I got to wake up. You go to bed and you're like dreading your alarm waking up.
That's a sign that intuitively you're not listening to yourself.
And I think sometimes that's why am I bored? That's the self-assessment part of this. And I'm not trying to take over this part too with that topic, but it's like, you know, we talked about this a little bit. It's like, you know, I think it's sometimes you got to find like people that are hungry trying to make change. It's like find your why. You hear that all the time. It's like sometimes I think you got to, when things are going well or you think things are not going well and you're bored or you just feel like it's like this is my life in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
Find your why there again. Find why is this that bad? Yeah, I gotta wake up next to my wife and the kids in the other room, and I got my house and all this stuff. And it's like, so people think like that.
It blows my mind. Yeah.
People that think like that.
Yeah,
I know people that think like that.
I do.
And you're just like, there was a time that you wanted to wake up to your significant other in your house with your kids in the bed and everyone's safe.
And what happened? Like, what made you change?
Yeah, why the fuck are you bored with that?
Why?
That was part of it. It's like you got to find why you're fucking bored. Because most of the time, I don't think things are necessarily bad. When you're bored, a lot of times it's because things are just easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are times in your life, I think a lot of times that you long or you hope that someday things will be easier than they are right now.
There's no
and
fulfillment.
It's like when you get that, you get what you wanted, and you're like, man, all right, another day of just a sunny day.
It's
I
like
got coffee brewing. I gotta go to a job that pays me. I gotta come home to my wife and kids. Oh, just another fucking weekday. It's like, yeah, sounds awesome. I remember 5 years ago when you were saying you wish things would go so well.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
that's true.
They are again.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off, man. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I think
you're gonna go climb a mountain instead? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Your 10-year younger self would travel in the future and
That's
smack you in
my
the
point.
fucking face.
1000%. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in this world that don't appreciate the lives that they have, and
absolutely.
I don't know. Maybe I also think that people, when things come easy, you don't appreciate it as much.
That's true too.
Yeah,
that's very true.
Like it's hard to appreciate things that are easy. You know, as much as so many people don't like uncomfortability, they don't like things that are hard, but it's what you get at the end of the things that are hard, the things that are uncomfortable, that make whatever you're getting worth that much more. And I kind of use the analogy like people who like collect things, like that take like it's the thrill of the hunt that really, and I think that analogy kind of goes in your career and stuff like that, is when you accomplish the things and you get the things that are hard to do is when you actually appreciate those things that much more.
Yeah.
And it takes effort and it takes drive to be able to get that satisfaction and to accomplish certain things. And I feel like no matter if we're younger or we're older, like I don't think we ever lose that ability to want to keep growing, whether it's something physical, something mental, like you learn new things, you're doing new things. Like we're always striving. We have that desire in us to want to learn and learn and learn and do things and do things. And sometimes life deals us cards that prevent us from doing certain things. And I think people's mentality is, oh, my life sucks because I can't do this. Like, well, maybe it's just an opportunity to figure out. My mentality is like, if there's a roadblock that's preventing me from doing something, I'm going to figure out a way because it's going to make me appreciate it that much more when I can actually overcome whatever's in front of me. Like, it just makes it that much sweeter in the end.
Which is why you're not a bored person right now. Right?
I would probably, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. When you put it that way, that makes a lot of sense. You know, if you want something, like, go get it. Like, and I know when most people you say that, they think of like, oh, if you want $1 million, like, go get it. Like, no, like, it can be in like little things too in your daily life. Just put forth the effort and figure out a way to get what you actually really want instead of coming up with excuses, because it's easy to have an excuse. It's easy to come up with reasons not to do something, but does that ever make anybody feel better? No, it never does.
Doesn't. No, it doesn't.
You know, and I know, like, kind of going back to like the analogy of like the customers that don't want to be bothered, right? Like,
I want to be helped. Yeah,
they don't want to be helped. Like, I loved every person that did. Like, I worked for GNC. I was a regional manager for GNC for a long time, and those were some of my favorite customers. They go in, they know exactly what they want. They don't want help. I knew right then and there. I'm like, I'm gonna figure out who this person is. Like, I'm gonna make them. It'll make me feel better. I want them to open. I want them to open. I wouldn't say break. I wouldn't say break them.
I'll break you.
You know, like, for example, like pre-workouts and stuff like that, right? So most people see something on social media like, this is what I want. This tool is the best. Like, I just give me this. And I'll start asking questions like, have you taken it before? Yeah. And I'll start asking, like, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What are you trying to do with it? I'm just asking questions, trying to get. I want to make myself. I want to create that opportunity to engage rather than just accepting the fact like someone's just going to be like, nope, I just want this and that's it. Like, I want to see if I can provide value, and if I can't, at least I know I tried. That continuously gives me the ability to feel like I've made a difference in some way, shape, or form because I at least tried. Like, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. That's
Michael
more
Scott.
You know, but at the same time too, it's if you're looking for that engagement, that fulfillment, you got to keep trying no matter what the circumstances is. You at least have to try.
Yeah.
If that's what you're chasing, if that's what you want is that fulfillment and that engagement, you got to create the opportunity to do it. And I couldn't tell you how many times. I would probably say 85 to 90% of the time someone ever came in and they didn't really want to be held. Like, I know what I'm looking for. One or two things happens. One, they look around the store for about 5 minutes and they finally ask me, hey, do you know where this is? Because they think they know what they're doing, but they don't.
Sure.
Or two, I just start asking them questions about it and they start giving me short answers. Like, yeah, I have. I've taken that before. Or they're like, what are you trying to do with it? And I start digging a little bit deeper and then they start opening up. And allows me to give them actually a better recommendation that they actually appreciate. Then they come back and then they just want to keep talking to me over and over and over again. They want to ask me questions because I actually made a difference for them.
It's amazing how many times I'll have customers that I'll initially ask them, like, hey, is there anything I help you find? Oh, I'm just looking. I'm like, all right. And sometimes what I'll throw in there is, all right, let me know if anything I help you find or if you would like a recommendation.
Sure.
And I'll walk away and let them continue to browse.
Yeah, that's dealing with customers, right?
And then they'll come back up to me like, actually, you know what? I am looking for this, or what would you recommend for this? It's like, well, the first time I asked that, you didn't want my opinion or my advice, but now you do. It's like, all right, it's an opportunity.
Sure.
You know, you did that to me when the first times ever came. I don't know if you remember this when the first time came to the shop, because I'm always looking for this, the Murcielago. You're the one who actually recommended the Azulejo to me.
Wow.
And actually, after trying that, after explaining like my history with this and everything else, like you actually recommended, goes, you know, the Azulejo might be another one if you might want to try. You might like it. Turns out I actually like it just as much as this one. I would say I bought more boxes of the Azulejo than the Murcielago. And it's because of him.
All right. That's all about just, again, that's, that's why I offer this part of the topic, right? You know, is that everyone has days at work that, or days in their life, whatever the arena is, work, relationships, your own personal self-image, whatever it is, you get bored, man. It's funny that, again, I'm going to not get it too fucking hallmark here, is that, life seems super long when you're in the middle of it. But, at times when you look at the finite life that you have, time you have, it's so short. But how often do you deal with the paradox of that is the back and forth between life being, man, this is just another day versus I don't have much time on this earth.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the whole boredom topic, or like when you came in the shop, you're like, yeah, I really like Murcielago. Yeah, they're right over here. How many you want? But you have a conversation. It's just because you're there. I mean, if you're going to be there, whatever there is, I feel like sometimes, even if it's at your own place and you're by yourself, if you're going to be alive or there, wherever it is, it's okay to not really want to put a whole lot of effort into it sometimes. But if that's all you're doing and you're just that, you're going to be bored as shit, man. You got to entertain yourself sometimes. And funny enough, that sometimes when you entertain yourself, you actually have a good time. Whether you're by yourself or with other people, you have a good time. And it's like you talk about that, Mike. It's like I wasn't doing it because that's my job and all that stuff. It's like, oh, this guy, whatever it is. I don't recall that moment, but it makes sense because you come in, you're offering an honest conversation, and I do the same thing. And all of a sudden, it's like now we're friends. You're sitting here in my garage, and
for the third time now.
It's super easy if you just let yourself or push yourself not to be bored. That's the way I look at it.
And I got to piggyback off of something you just said with how when you feel like you're in life, it feels like it's forever, but how little time we actually have. I watched a little video a while back that really put things into a different perspective. The way they explained it, you can kind of piggyback off of it, but it was two guys talking about how one of them sees his parents. Like this is a guy who was probably like in his 40s who goes and sees his parents, was it 2 to 3 times a year, right? Let's say twice a year. I go visit my parents twice a year. Like, you think you got X amount of year, let's say you got 20 more years left.
Yeah.
Right. You got 20 years left. You think of it as 20 years. They still got 20 years at least before, they might pass away. No, if you're seeing them twice a year, you're going to see your parents 40 more times for the rest of your life. And that's all you got. That scares the crap out of some people when you put it that way. You know what I mean?
Sure does.
Life is a lot shorter than we think. And the thing of it is, like, tomorrow isn't, I know it's not, people overthink this. Tomorrow is not promised. It's really not. Like, you have no idea when your time comes. You could die in a car accident. Something can happen. I mean, anything can happen. So what you make of every day is what you make of it, because too many people don't appreciate the life that they have. And they think, tomorrow will come. Tomorrow will come. Before you know it, life has already passed you by. And you're not going to feel it until later because you're stuck in the moment. You're not going to realize until it's too late.
Before you know it, tomorrow becomes yesterday.
Yep.
Dropping some bombs here. All right, let's wrap this up here. We're getting late here. Nate, you want to start with some closing comments about anything else? About what we talked about? Doesn't have to be the boredom topic. Obviously, anything else we talked about tonight. We had some great conversation here. Ray, thank you. Bobby Crow, Tim Dodge, Sean Anderson, Bobby Hirschman, Kristen, Jess on your texts.
I'm
gonna round out with one more pour of that.
I think
Which one you want? This one?
Yeah. Fall finishing series now available through lottery.
yes.
Watersheddistillery.com.
There you go.
Awesome.
I think a lot of what we've talked about today, especially when we talk about the seasons, with Bobby's comment, with your comment about, boredom, Bobby's about the seasons changing. It's that stimulus. It's, we find ourselves sometimes. It's amazing how often the idea of seasonal depression comes up, whether it be going into spring, going into winter, going into the summer. Kids are off school, they're at home. It's like, holy shit, now I got to deal with these people instead of the school dealing with these people. Like, oh my gosh.
Sure.
But no, it's about making the best of those opportunities that come, and looking at it not as a challenge, but more as a blessing. Hey, it's the wintertime. Things are starting to slow down in my retail business. That means it's even more important for me to do my job and help customers, help them find they need. Make every opportunity count coming through the door. Because we've talked about a lot on the cigar side. Going into the colder months, people aren't smoking outside. It's a slower time of the year in terms of numbers, so you got to make those opportunities count. In order, especially if you're a business owner, a small business owner, whatever your slow season is, you got to make those opportunities count in order to be able to keep you afloat. But it's the same thing personally. Like during the colder months, there's fewer opportunities to be able to go outside and do outdoor activities. It may not be as comfortable or as easy to go outside and go for a walk, or to be able to go on a domestic vacation because the weather's turning cold everywhere in the country.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's now, late, it's the colder months, 50 degrees, soon it'll be 40 degrees. Okay. What do we do when it's the colder months to keep ourselves stimulated, to keep ourselves happy with one another, to not get bored with one another? What are, if you're in a long-term relationship, like Jess and I have been together, for 15 years, and it's like, okay, do we want to let, the colder months be the same thing they've always been, and we're just hanging out inside, just watching TV or staring at our phones? Or do we want to take the opportunity to be able to do something that's different, something we haven't done in the past?
Or something you enjoy, you enjoy. That's the other thing. Sometimes you forget to do those things that you enjoy, and then it's like, man, we haven't done that in forever. Yeah.
It was 2 years ago, the last time Jess and I took an actual vacation, and that was going to Nashville. But that was in November, so it's not like it was extremely warm. It was still like going to the fall anywhere else.
Mm.
But it was the whole idea of we were in a different city with different things to do. Well, guess what? There are still things around Columbus where we live that we haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things around town? We don't necessarily have to travel. We don't have to go to Nashville. We don't have to go to Cancun. Although Cancun does sound really nice this time.
Really nice, man.
It is.
Really nice.
Yeah. Super jealous of having your own walkout pool.
It was pretty nice.
But
we are going to go back.
Yeah. But what can we do that's around us now, where we are? What are some things we can do that we can actually take the opportunity and take advantage of to be able to provide that stimulus, to provide that excitement? I think too often we are reliant on the extravagant to entertain ourselves, that we forget to look what's around us.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree with that.
Mike?
It's kind of hard to top that one.
It's not a competition.
No, but
it's well said, though. Yeah.
I mean, I think you're right. There's always going to be things you can do if you choose to do them. Like, honestly, one of the things I experienced in the colder months, I'm someone who likes to go out. Like, first off, fall is a great hiking season. It's not too hot. It's not too cold.
Right.
It's perfect. But one of the things I experienced, and I did this a few years ago, and it was one of the coolest experiences I never thought would be. So I actually, during an actual legit snowfall, when when the snow is like really, really, really thick and it's just pouring down.
Yeah.
I actually went on a trail, and there's something about when the snow is really coming down, what it does to the atmosphere, it like almost. You ever been like a soundproof room?
Yeah, no, it does. I know
it's like a soundproof room to where I almost kind of feel like without all the noise, it allows you to really be able to absorb and look around, like how beautiful it actually is. Like there's something about when the trees don't have its leaves, but it's covered in snow and there's no sound. There's just something about it that's just mesmerizing. I've never experienced until I finally did it. Was it cold? Sure it was. Was I bundled up? Yeah, it was one of the few times I'll wear a jacket and hat. So it was such a cool experience. And I love doing that every change. So when it snows, like I want to go outside just to experience like what it feels like.
Every now and then I'll see those Facebook memories of, a couple of years ago when I was doing walks that Steve inspired me to do, where I was bundled up. I had layers, I had Carhartt, I had a hat, I had a toboggan on, I had a full face mask on to protect my face from the weather. But it's like, going through those walks, it was calm. The neighborhood was quiet. It was me and myself and my thoughts. Like, if I was inside my own house, I'd be looking for other things that entertain me. Well, here I am outside taking the walk. Like, what is there? Like, I'm left to my own thoughts.
Yep.
Could be a scary place.
Like I say,
absolutely. You're in my mind, absolutely.
Anyway, going back to this whole seasonal depression, like, I think I'm a very big believer. It's seasonal depression if you allow it to be. Like, if you allow it to be that way, it's on you.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do what it takes to make yourself feel fulfilled and happy, to challenge yourself and think innovatively, to think of new ideas and do different things, like, that's on you. It's your life. You get one life. You make of it what you want to make of it. Like, every day we have, one of the rules that I live by is every single day you have the ability, every person has the ability to make choices. We either make choices that progress us forward or send us backwards. It's our choice. It doesn't matter if you have an excuse or not. It's your choice what you choose to do. If you want to make the best of your life, make the best of it. If you want to sulk in it, you can sulk in it. It's up to you. It's purely up to you what you make of your life, no matter what the circumstances are. In my experience, I found things to be far more gratifying when things are harder, when things are more challenging, things are more inconvenient, because it just makes everything that much sweeter when I overcome the obstacles that are around whatever I want to do.
Well, you have the stimulus there, right? You got those obstacles to overcome, right?
That is the stimulus.
Yeah, it's not boring.
Don't get me wrong. And at the same time, too, like, I am someone that thoroughly enjoys the summertime. I love being out in the sun, when things are quote unquote easier. But to tell you the truth, after a long winter of things that I've overcome and I challenged myself with, it makes it that much sweeter when it comes around.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, like, seasonal depression, it's usually about like mid-February. Like, I love the seasons changing. I love like this time of the year. It's great. You know what I mean? It's I got reminded that, like, I put on a zip-up hoodie the other day, and I went in the shop, and I'm like, oh man, I haven't washed this hoodie in a while. I don't think I washed it before summer hit. You know what I mean? I had like dog slobber on it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if that was from last night or if it was because I didn't wash it or whatever. It's like, but I look at this and I'm like, I enjoy those. Again, that seasonal changes for me. That is a good stimulus. I like this. I do. I enjoy summer. I enjoy that. The Cancun trip, love it. Right? I absolutely love it, and I enjoy the warm weather. But I grew up in the Midwest. I love winter, but it's like when it lasts so long, that's when my seasonal, like, not depression, but I'm just like, all right, let's go here. Let's get back to spring. Let's get light earlier. Let's all right. It's March now. It's still snowing.
Is it
like,
more
come
when
on,
is it more like when, as the seasons change, you get like a taste of, like, okay, it's been 50 degrees for the past like 4 weeks, and all of a sudden you get one day it's like 75 degrees and it goes back to 50 degrees. It's almost like, oh man, like, we get a tease of it. Like, that's where, like, in situations like that, and again, I used to be a very negative person. I used to come up with excuses and all these. I used to be the person like, man, like, why do we have to get teased like that? Now I'm like, when I get the opportunity, I make the best of it and I appreciate it. And it's a different way of looking at a situation. And honestly, I truly believe your life is going to be what you perceive it to be. And you can either choose to be appreciative and look at the good side of it, or choose the bad. That's going to dictate how you show up.
It is. But I think that's taking work on your side. And I think it takes work a lot.
It takes work on everybody.
So that's that, again, putting in the effort there, no matter what it is. Boredom, seasons changing, everything we talked about tonight, as we always do in part two, is, we're fortunate enough to sit here, drink some good whiskey, smoke a nice cigar, stream this podcast and all that stuff. These are all things that I don't take for granted. It's something that people ask, about doing this podcast. Does it feel like work? Sometimes it does. But it's still, we do it because we enjoy it. And, I'm at a point, I've had my ups and downs in life, and Nate, you and I were talking about it before the podcast when I brought up the boredom thing. I was like, I already kind of expected something by stating that some people might take it the wrong way, that I'm the one that brought it up, because it makes sense when someone, trying to have conversation about like what we do in part 2. If it was always just about like, oh, let me just suggest, when things are going well, like how are things going? It's like, it's not that it's not exciting or stimulating. It's just the fact that it's like, even when things are going well, things can get boring. The seasons are going to change. Things outside of your control will impact you. So I think that a lot of times is, if you continue to work, like Mike's saying, to make sure that you are doing your best with everything that you have dealt to you, and also sometimes the cards that you're dealing to yourself, if you have control over that to a point, is you're doing your best to enjoy it. That you don't, I mean, again, I bring it up, like my Mondays off when no one else is off with me. Those times are sometimes a reset. Sometimes they're my busiest days, because that's a day off that I'm just got like, I got errands all day long, or I got appointments, or I got like, all right, I got to see the dentist or the doctor. I got to go to the groomer for the dog, or the vet. Like, I set it up for that day. I would love to have that day off just for myself and just to be able to just reset. It doesn't happen. In my weeks, a lot of it is very enjoyable. I work in a cigar shop, do a podcast on Wednesday. A lot of times of the year, I'm playing softball on Thursdays. But that week goes so fast. And again, I do my best to, like, right this time of the year, Sundays, people are like, oh man, I'm so busy, or I just like kind of veg out on Sundays. And I'm like, with my life, no kids, great girlfriend, good friends, I'm going to go watch the Bears lose. and a lot of people are like, oh, you waste your Sundays. You're not productive and all that stuff. I was like, this is what I want to do. Again, first world.
This is the day I don't have to be productive this day. I can do whatever I want on this day. I was productive the other 5 days of the week. Let me have one.
I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford to do that with my mental state of being a Bears fan, and also live in the U.S. in the Midwest and be, who I am. And
it's prepared you in many ways.
Yeah. It teaches you humility. It teaches you. No, I mean, like, in all honesty, though, it's like, it's yes, you can make the most out of it. Like the people that are just like make the most out of every minute of your day. Like sometimes it is for you. It's to be able to like to have that staycation or whatever it is. Like it's just a moment to enjoy. I'm with my girlfriend. I'm with friends. I'm able to enjoy that moment. It doesn't always have to be so serious all the time, given your circumstances.
Well, and sometimes when you come up with the idea of like, how do you prevent boredom? Like you posted that on the community page. Yeah. It's not because you are bored.
No,
it's you understand that any relationship, any job, any hobby, any career, whatever it is, can become boring.
Yeah.
How do you prevent it from getting to that point? Like you're trying to nip it in the bud before it ever happens. It doesn't mean active, it doesn't mean you're there.
Yeah.
You just realize things can go that way if you allow it to. Okay, I don't want my job to become boring. I don't want my relationship to become boring. So what do I need to do to ensure that doesn't happen?
When you know exactly what you enjoy, when you know what makes you happy, that is when you have, this is a two-facet thing. You know what you like, you do it so long, you're going to be bored with it. So you crack a new bottle, you light up a new cigar, you take a new trip, you talk to a new person, you go to a different place. Where we are in our 30s and 40s, it's different. When you're 80 years old, fuck it. You keep doing the same thing as long you know what makes you happy. All right. You don't necessarily need the stimulus at this point. You just need the stimulus of being able to like walk out of the house, no matter if it's fucking sunny or you're walking in 4 feet of snow. It's just the fact that you have something to do that day.
You got
and
you got up, your feet hit the ground.
I look at it right now. Same thing. If you have chores to do, you got to mow your lawn, you got to shovel your driveway, whatever it might be. It's like you can. It's a frame of mind there.
Thank God I got a driveway to shovel. Thank God I got a yard to mow.
Yeah,
I will say though, there's a caveat to that too.
Go ahead.
People who have high amounts of anxiety, because I also think there's a lot of people that are afraid to be in a state where they have nothing to do because they're scared to be with themselves, and it gives them anxiety to where they have to be constantly busy. And I think that can be the polar opposite of what we're trying to say too. I think there's also a lot of people that struggle with they have to be busy, they have to do tasks, otherwise their anxiety goes up, when that's actually a deeper rooted issue within themselves, not being okay with being by themselves and being in a state of just peace and quiet and things of that nature.
Sure.
Which kind of goes along with what we're talking about. And I'm at a place in my life now where I used to be that person where it's like, I got to be busy. Like I'd be afraid to be by myself, whether it's the boredom or just anxiety of being alone, whatever the case may be. Like now it's, if I get the opportunity, I can sit out back and just have a cigar and just peace and quiet. Like I am just awesome.
You have too much stimulus going on through all the other days. You look forward to just nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, again, wrapping it up, it's the same thing. It's like, when you do have grass is always greener type thing. It's like I have the opportunity a lot of times, again, not having any kids and all that stuff. It's like, I don't have all the, I fill my schedule the way that I want to. And sometimes that feels strenuous, but at the same time, it's like, oh man, I got a nice night out and I want to smoke a cigar. I want to have a glass of whiskey. I've now, again, because sometimes when you enjoy those things, that it's not boring to me, but I'll come home, it's a nice night and all that stuff. Like, I could go outside and have a glass of whiskey and smoke a cigar and just turn on some music. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
Just want to hang out with my dog inside on the couch. I mean, again, I'm very fortunate to be in that situation, and I'm not the most well-off person. I'm not saying I don't have my own problems, but sometimes you keep doing the same. That's what I was saying. You keep doing the same things that make yourself happy. And it's like, no matter what you do, in my opinion, if you enjoy in this, what I just said, I enjoy sitting on my patio, turn the fire table on, smoking a cigar, turn on some music, pour a glass. Sounds like heaven to most people. Playing, I'm at this point right now. It's like I come home, I'm like, yeah, I could light up another cigar, I can pour a glass of whiskey, and turn on the fire table, turn on the music. I'm just gonna sit out there and probably be on my phone because now I'm just bored with that. Like you do something long enough, it's again, that's why I think that there's got to be some sort of challenge or some sort of stimulus. There's got to be something. You can't just do the same thing over and over again. That's going back to it. I'll leave you guys with this, is that if you find yourself being bored, you find yourself not appreciating the things you have in life, when things are going well, you got to ask yourself, why do you not appreciate it anymore?
Amen.
And if you ask yourself that, I think that you will find an answer. And sometimes it'll lead you to something else, or sometimes you will be reignited on things that you are enjoying. And you're like, man, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot how good this is. Instead of waiting for things to go to shit, and then you strive to get back to that point where things were so good.
I think a lot of people are too afraid to do the things that they want to actually do due to the consequences that may come given the situation.
Or you feel guilty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gentlemen, you have an empty glass.
I have an empty glass.
All right.
This is the second time it's happened.
Just
pour a nip. Just pour a
I'll
nip.
pour. I'll pour.
Just a
I'll pour.
nip.
Just
We can't
just
do that.
Just
That's
a, Just a
bad.
nip. Okay.
oh shit.
All right, gentlemen. Happy Whiskey Wednesday, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Kind of going back to the point where it's like you got to make the best of opportunities. I was in Toledo. I was supposed to be in Toledo. Got canceled. I'm like, what can I do? I made a phone call, made an appointment in Columbus, but I also knew it was Wednesday, so I'm like, this is one of the things that I thoroughly enjoy doing. Like if I get an opportunity, I'm
good.
like, I'm gonna be here. So this is the kind of stuff that makes me happy.
We appreciate having you.
Stephen, it'll be up. Guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. We'll see you next week. And thank you again to Watershed for donating this bottle. Check it out. The lottery is open until the 26th.
Mm-hmm.
Enter on watersheddistillery.com. And hopefully, you guys, good luck. Win this bottle. Cheers.
Cheers.